Warning: this stream is for entertainment purposes. The opinions expressed by the participants might be exaggerated for comedic effect. Harsh language can be used. Thought-provoking or controversial topics may be discussed.
Hello, Crispy. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Max.
It's been a while.
It's been too long. Far too long.
Yeah. So, tonight I want to talk about dungeon design, and I'm glad you could join me for that subject. And I probably wouldn't have done it if you couldn't, because you're the one that wanted to do a dungeon crawl at some point and tried
I
it.
did. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Although you didn't design a dungeon.
No. I cheated. Thank you, Dyson Logos. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And but the whole thing is that we often talk about no prep, and then using map and going in dungeon. Do we need that? Can we just create and stuff like that? But also a topic I wanted to touch on is about this like I said in the thumbnail, realism versus symbolism in dungeon design, right? And that's a bit topic that come inspired by the basic expert that
right. That's
we're
John,
talking
right?
about. Yes, John,
Okay.
the basic expert, John Torres, which was we're talking about the mythical dungeon underground, right? Where dungeon don't have to, you say dungeon don't have to make sense because they're symbolic place, or they're mythical place. They're not real normal place. You're leaving the normal world when you go down in the dungeon. And I really like this concept. I really like this idea. And it reminds me of something I talked about before when I was talking about dragons, right? I hate when people make dragons just animals, right? Just beasts. They should have a symbolic meaning. If you try to explain the ecology and how they live and how they reproduce, and you can breed them and you can wrangle them and stuff like that, right. You're losing something. It's supposed to be a mythical monster. You're supposed to be you don't know where they come from. If you have baby dragon, I think it's a mistake, right? You can have smaller dragon, but dragon represent the sins of men and stuff like that. And I think there's something similar that can be said about some dungeon. So this is the topic. What do you think?
I think it's a good topic. I mean, because I approach this in a somewhat different way. I like the idea of a layered dungeon. So there should be a superficial understanding that makes some sense ecologically, but I also like that I like that idea that you expressed, where this is a place where there are unanswered questions, and those unanswered questions can become that mythical place. So I like the surface understanding of, okay, this is eating that, and this lives here because of this. But then the deeper you go into it, I like that symbolism element coming in. Wait a second, this doesn't make sense anymore. And it doesn't have to make sense. But I do I at first, as the interaction is just at the superficial level, this is living here, it's eating that, there's a reason for it to be there. But the deeper you go in, the more symbolic it can become, and leave lots of room for things to be undefined. I do like the idea of leaving the undefined, the unknown, the ambiguous.
Yeah.
I have an old book. It's called the Draconomicon, and it's this Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 thing, and all it does is it just talks about dragons. And like you say, it doesn't work very well just because it goes into such exhaustive detail. Here's what they look like. Here's their organs. Here's where, and at the end,
it makes dragons not unique anymore, right?
Yeah,
Just
it turns something that's fantastic into more mundane.
Mundane, exactly. That's what I was about to say. It demystified them, right? And something shouldn't be demystified.
That's true.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the. Oh, let me say hi to Nicholas and Squad Bench that live that are in chat.
Oh, excellent! There's some people actually watching. That's fantastic. Yeah. Hi guys.
Working on Philogon, but desert with things to discover. Oh, there you go. Maybe that's gonna be useful because that's also something I want to talk about when we talk about dungeon.
Mhm.
The first thing I want to mention before we go deeper into that, right? Deeper into the dungeon.
Yep.
A dungeon doesn't necessarily have to be an underground place. Doesn't have to be like
No.
some kind of prison. Doesn't have to, like a
Right.
dungeon for me. The way in context of RPGs is a self-contained place for adventure.
Okay.
So
What
a
do you mean by
forest.
self-contained? Like just a self-contained place for adventure?
Self-contained in the sense that like there's some limit that we can
Okay.
understand on it, right? Just like so could be like when you go underground, necessarily there's limit because of that. There's wall and stuff like
Right.
that. Same thing if you go in a cave. But if you go into this dark forest, right? The forest can be the dungeon. It's a
Sure.
location. It's a local that like if you like I some inside like the city as a dungeon. If you do like
Right.
like abandoned city, like something like that, right? That
So
can
there's
become a dungeon.
right. There's an entrance. There's in a sense of you could leave it. It has boundaries.
Yeah.
It's self-contained. How
If you
does
were
that?
to do like like an adventure on an island, right? A
Uh-huh.
small island,
The
then that
island is
become
the dungeon.
that's
Sure.
that's dungeon because there's some kind of limit. It's like it's not open world. It's a contained place.
It's contained, right? And within that, perhaps there's miniature or there's smaller mini dungeons or
Yep.
contained spaces. Each room is its own little
Yeah.
contained space. And
Yes. And you have zone and stuff like that, right? Just
Mhm,
like yes.
mhm.
So if you do a desert, you can have like absolutely those kind of place, right?
Sure, you could
Just like
an oasis,
a
a
little
dune
berg or
sea, or yeah, absolutely
yeah.
quicksand, whatever,
Yeah.
a particular obstacle.
Yeah. And I like what you like. Also, I think like when I say like a dungeon doesn't have to like they can be mythical places and like they don't all have to be that. You can have
Mhm.
those mundane places. Like you're just going in the sewer, right? Okay, now
Sure.
that's a kind of dungeon adventure, but it's still gonna be very mundane, right? You
Yes.
don't want them make them all mythical either,
No.
because otherwise, that's always the thing with the mythical and the symbolic stuff. If you overuse it, it loses potency.
It becomes mundane.
It
It's no
becomes mundane.
longer, yeah, it,
Yeah.
it can be definitely be overused. And I do think that if if every dungeon or every self-contained, because I like your expression there, a self-contained portion, if every self-contained portion has something that is just so fantastical or mythical that there's no way, like, what does this thing do when there's not adventurers to eat? Like,
Mhm.
if every room is like that, then it starts to, I think you're like you said, I think it starts to become too, it's just too prevalent, and becoming, if it's just the ubiquitous thing every time we open the door, it's oh so random, whatever it could be, or we'll just
Yep.
randomly roll on the table. Some of that makes sense, but a lot of it, for me, I struggle with it if it's too much. The mythical has a place. I don't think the two are mutually exclusive, is what I'm saying. You can
No,
have a bit of both, and I think that's what
and
works best.
and you need you need both, I think, because even if you want to do this mythical dungeon, the first layer near the entrance should still be fairly mundane, right? You need
Yes,
like, and
yes.
the deeper you go, the weirder it
The
can. I mean,
weirder it
you can go
gets.
in like fucking like Escher-esque. Is that what the people
Yes.
say? Kind of like place if you want, right? If you go
Sure.
deep enough.
Yes.
And
Like,
even in the Lord of the
yeah.
Ring, there's this idea like, oh, the dwarf dug
They
too
delve
deep.
too deep. Yeah.
Yeah,
In their
and then
greed.
a monster came out, right? Just
Mhm.
like that was just there. Like nobody asked, like, oh, how did the Balrog got there? What it was doing before it? Like, it's a fucking demon. Just,
Yeah, it
it's
doesn't
just like in
need a
the underground.
justification.
Yeah,
Exactly. And I do like that. I do like that idea that the deeper you go into this unknown space, the
yeah,
less you have a framework from which to say this is, this doesn't stretch believability for this to be here, because we have no idea what could be here. And
yes.
perhaps this is descending into some other realm. Um,
And
I like that.
also, it once you go in that way, it allows you to play with different, like, maybe time pass differently when you're down
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
Maybe like different like you can it opens you a lot of door for
Hmm.
creativity and for weirdness and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of the Berserk manga series.
Hmm.
uh
Yes, you've mentioned that in the past. Yeah.
yeah. And there's this point where like and it's in the forest, and the more they advance the forest, the more things gets weird, and at some point, like, and there's the witch that are with them, and explaining, oh, it's because now here we're entering in a place that the spiritual layer of the world
Right.
is superposed, and is like the veil between the two worlds is thin, and the deeper we're gonna go, the more we're gonna go into the super in the spiritual thing. So now, like, there's the monster, like, on the supernatural thing, right? And that's
Right.
what happened. And they're going to this cave, and like they keep going through that place. But that's a very interesting example of a dungeon there, because
Sure
at
it
some
is.
point it looks like they're still seeing, like, the tree looks weird, and at some point there's some like weird guy looking at them, and the more they go, the weirder thing go, until they go into like a until this cave, right? I just say no, and like there's a big payout there, and they kind of solve the thing that was deep there, that was causing this interlacing of the spiritual world on top of the naturalistic world, right?
Right. Right. Well, I like that, and I like the idea that so the reason why I think that it's healthy to have both, or that they can complement one another, is that if you're going to have something that where you're introducing the weird, it has to be juxtaposed on the non-weird.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's hard. It's hard if everything is weird, because then you start to lose the frame. You're losing the baseline. And I think for the weird to truly shine, there should be plenty of non-weird. Well, this is a some kind of prey predator relationship, or there's other reasons for them to be here. Okay, well, we can understand that, but then there's something that is so outside of that that it's completely weird. It's shocking, and it's only shocking because it's juxtaposed. It's layered on top of the non-shocking.
Yes. Yeah. And as a GM, you don't have to have all the answer.
You don't,
and you don't want to give all the answer to the player either, right? And that's something that I often like come back to. And I think that's also like, maybe like if I'm reading that, like that's probably like where the Nicholas go through there, like, how did the end wife disappear? We don't know.
We don't know. They're still looking for them.
Yeah. Logical explainable one. Yeah. And that's the thing. Sometimes like that add mystery, and
sure,
maybe you just don't have an answer, and that's fine. And maybe the player are going to be like pick up on that, and then they want to find an answer, and now you have something else going on, right? And it's a different lead for adventure, which is great too. And then you figure it out with the player at the same time. And it's always what I talk about when I talk about like epistemology, right? In role-playing game, right? The characters know what they know because they live in this world, not because the GM told the player, right?
No.
So when they go outside of their normal life, they face the unknown,
right?
And that's fine, and that's interesting. So you don't want to explain everything.
I had an experience with this several years ago. I was mining some published adventure module for some ideas, and I came across this description of this swamp. And in this description, as I was looking for ideas of interesting locations, and I was doing the over prep thing, which we've talked about, that's not a good idea. But what stands out in my memory, Max, is that there was this line where in the description it just says, in the swamp you find there's a sail ship, like just an abandoned sailing ship, a tall mass, big, and it's just there. And then in the description it says, this is just a mystery, like there's no explanation. It was just something that was put there. And I thought, well, that's kind of fascinating. You just have something that's totally not explained. It shouldn't be there, but it's there. And it stuck with me as this idea that inserting the unknown, the mystical, it makes the world feel richer, more undiscovered. A country that is yet to be fully mapped out, and every mystery solved. There's still so much that's unknown. I think that's nice.
And that, I think also that's something that stay with the player quite a bit. Because not like, no, you have like this thing that like, what was that about? And then
I don't know. They kept on talking about it. What about that thing?
Like they're gonna ask you after the game. I don't know.
Don't
give them the answer. Don't like
give them the answer.
Exactly. And maybe you don't have an answer, right? And that's
okay not to have an answer. That's right. It's okay not to. And I don't think it's excessive hand waving either to just say, oh, don't, I don't, you don't have to have an answer for everything that occurs.
Nope.
In fact,
Nope.
it's probably better you don't, because you're discovering it at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. You'll get the answer if the characters go delve into it, right?
Sure.
If the character can figure it out, then we all know around the table. Everybody around the table will figure it out at the same time, right?
Yeah.
We learn thing at the speed of the character, but investigating basically. Like the GM, maybe you're one step ahead, but not much more than that.
No, not really. Because if you're too many steps ahead, then you're going to be leading them. What is that called? Leading the witness towards something. And it's just that the questions. That's a great comment. I appreciate that comment. Full Metal State, great player, by the way. Presenting questions can be more impactful than providing answers. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, especially if it's not clear if the unknown, this question kind of thing, is this an obstacle? Is it a feature of the world? Is it a threat? It's all unknown. It's all there to be interacted with or not.
They're like Schrödinger threat, right? Schrödinger, like you don't know until you open the box.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And this is a great comment too. I think this is good.
That's something I talk a lot about. Like you say, like if Dungeon Minister say, I really enjoy Seat of the Pen DMing, and thank you for dropping by. So often I have planned, but the player don't go the way so I have to invent on the fly. And
it's better
for me. Like when I'm GMing, for me that's the game.
Yes,
that's how I engage with the game, right? That's the game aspect of it. Is like I'm not there to tell you a story. I'm there to play a game, and the side of playing the game when I'm the GM is making up stuff up on the fly. That's a huge part of it. I'm getting challenged by my player that are proactive and do like stuff that I could never have planned.
That's right. We didn't anticipate it. We just we react to what they're doing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you do that, like which I used to do, I was terrible for this. I'd have all of these. Well, if they go here, if they go there, if they go, all these contingencies.
The flow chart.
Yeah, it's not. And even after having done all of that, the best game sessions are the ones where they did something completely different, and I just had to improvise anyway. So you embrace it and practice it.
Look at that. It's the RPG version. Oh, how often did I say that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. You know the rules. You have a few things in mind when you blend it. Like exactly. Right. Like in jazz, like when you play music and stuff like that, you get to know like those lick and stuff like that you can you can rearrange. And at some point when you GM for a long time, you get those kind of thing as well, right?
You do.
But
and it's such a great analogy, because those of us that have played a bit of jazz, there'll be a theme. Like, so when it starts off, there'll be a theme, and it's a repeating theme, and each instrument will take it, and then they'll riff off of it. They're still in the same key signature. They may play a little bit. They're going to put in a few incidental notes, little spicing it up. They're going to alter the rhythm slightly, but they're still returning to that theme. And then someone else takes it. The theme is still there. It's identifiable. Maybe we go into a bit of a drum solo. Maybe the horn player is going to go with something, but you're still going to have that theme. It's not just a total free for all. So I like that he brought up jazz. I think it's a very apt comparison, and I like jazz. So
we're both jazz guys.
We like jazz. Jazz is great.
Maybe that's why. Like, is there a link in the way we are playing and the music we like?
Maybe.
Maybe we need to delve into that at some point.
Exactly, and like I was saying, this is why I sometimes struggle with Gonzo type things, because where is that recurring theme, that riff that you can pick out, and maybe it's the riff is the tone of the game, or maybe it's the worry of the characters that continues to come up. We're still worried about this, and that each character riffs off it in a different way, but the worry remains as a recurring motif. That
if you go to Gonzo, you turn into noise, right?
It's just noise then. It's just random.
Just like children would do, right? Just like unpatterned noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's important to know that, and this comes back a lot. A lot of our conversations come back to this idea that we can have a higher level degree of trust when everyone is focusing on the same goal. For us in our games, the goal is the role play, in character role play of the characters. So like that's the goal. The goal isn't I want to get the thing so that I can level up. That's not it. It's something else entirely.
Yeah. No, Mr. Exactly. It's not gonzo. You stay with the team, but you riff on it. Follow when
gets a
someone
chance.
grabs a chance for a solo.
Yeah.
And Aaron said, like, oh, we have two Aaron, I guess. Jazz is sweet.
Jazz is sweet. That is correct answer.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. What are the other limitations you put on yourself to riff better? That's an interesting question.
It's a great question. If we're going to press the what is that? The metaphor
analogy.
The analogy more, we would say.
I guess that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
If you stumble on that word, don't stumble on the last OG part.
OG, yeah. My bad French accent's going to come out. So, but if the best jazz songs are recognizable, like where you can hear it and you're like, okay, I know this song.
Yeah.
And I think that implies a limitation on in the game sense. I'm just guessing here, Phil, but I would say that it's staying within the same tone. It's not violating the shared understanding of the world. Yes. So when it's your time to solo, you're not changing the physics of the world. You're not replaying that session 0 so you can, like I do, shoehorn something in that we didn't agree on. That's not playing within the limitations.
All the rules, when we talk about 4D, the rule of co-creation, stuff like that, those are limitations that we put on ourselves, like in that sense, for the riffing, right? Yes. Just like you don't just like, oh, we're in a medieval game, and then suddenly I pull out of like a laser gun, right? Just like, wait, whoa.
Yeah.
Or like you're changing keys, right? In a way that's not that,
yes.
like that is dissonant. That
it is.
You introduce like dissonance. We need to use that term more, I guess.
I think so, because the odd incidental note it's interesting. It creates a tension in the music, just like, hey, this is a little outside the normal. That can create an interesting complication. But if there's too much of that, you're just playing in a different key signature. And if you're playing in a different key signature, it's just not going to work right. It still has to harmonize with what everyone else is doing to a certain extent. Again, with the realization that the odd, this is a discordant note, but it's going to add tension to, and then it'll resolve. And when it resolves, it'll be that much more satisfying because of the tension that was there.
And when you think about like discordant note, that's also like the topic of what we have tonight. When we say like about the weird,
yes, the weird,
like those are the discordant note.
That's the discordant
note as
note.
well.
Yes,
like there's a ship in the middle of the desert that we don't know why or what. Like
I love that kind of stuff.
That's a discordant note, and
yes.
It might resolve, might not. It might like just be hanging there, but at some point,
right.
You
and it's okay to let it hang. What would be a problem is if you introduce that as a this is unusual, this is the element of the weird, but then all of a sudden everything else that had been established as the baseline normal becomes the weird too. Oh, well, what you thought was sand is actually crabs now, and it's moving, or sand fleas where you thought it was sand. Or okay, now you're just introducing so much all at once that it's too.
You don't have a pattern anymore. You don't have
the pattern, and so now the entire world is weird, which I struggle with, because how are you going to role play that if everything is weird, everything is unknown? It's hard to embody characters where they're inhabiting in a world that's unpredictable.
And while we're on the analogy of music, and we're talking about limitation to riff better, I want to talk about rhythm as well, because that's something I'm quite concerned about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I often talk about turnflation, right? When the turn gets longer and longer and longer, right?
Yeah, huge problem.
That's also like there's a link there, like the rhythm can change, and the rhythm will change in a game, right?
Yes.
And you have to play in the rhythm. If you're in an action scene,
that's a great point.
Shorter your turn, right?
That's a great point.
You can go faster and stuff like that. Like if everybody's taking short turn, like people,
then you should take a short turn.
Do a quick action, exactly. Right.
Yeah. And it should be. That's a great point, because if you're not doing that, then it's not. You're out of tune with the rest of the group, and that is, as far as pacing is concerned, because this pacing used to be my number one thing. In fact, when I was for a while there, on the inside of my Dungeon Master's screen, which I used to use, I haven't used in years, but I used to, I just had a big piece of paper that just written pacing, like that's, and because I thought it was my job to set the speed, the pace of the game, and then maintain the pace. But that's not ideal. As we've over the past year or so, if we've been trying to be more in character the whole time, I've come to this realization that no, the pacing is a group decision. It's not one person's decision. It's all the players and the game master, and it's communicated, as you say, with the speed of everyone's turn. And so if you have someone at the table that's not paying attention to that, that's usually me. So if there's someone that's not paying attention to that, and they're not communicating their character's actions in the world in the same pace, the same rapidity as the rest of the characters, then the pacing falls apart. Because wait a second, I thought this was frantic and everyone's behaving frantically, and then it's my turn and I'm going to go off for 30 seconds just in dialogue. Like, wait a second, we were worried about someone falling off a cliff and we were doing something here, and what all of a sudden you're pontificating about the trees, and I remember when I was a lad, and yet you haven't respected what's happening in the table. You're too outside. You're not riffing on that motif.
Or when you want to do, like, if you're doing too much, you're doing like too long of an action, or like a few action, your turn, stuff like that, right? The guy just before you did a short action.
Yeah.
The guy after that did a short action. Then comes your turn and you want to do like this intricate, complicated thing. You're violating the tempo, the rhythm, right?
Exactly. You're basically you're that soloist that's going to go on for like 15 minutes. Yeah. Like, guys,
but then when it comes to the other guy, right, that just did a short action, come back to him. Well, now you did all this thing, so I should be able to do a lot of stuff during the same time,
right?
And now like this, and that's where the turnflation comes, right? Yeah. That's where the turnflation set in, because now I want to do more because you took a long turn, so I need now I'm allowed to have a long turn, right? And then the next guy. And it's snowball. So just keep your turn short. And like in Bastard Sword, like I talk about like tempo, right? That's the word I use. Yeah. So again, there's this idea there. Like I do like interaction tempo, where like it's a role-playing scene, like in the traditional sense, right? We're just like interacting and talking, and we're not like tracking every second like precisely, but an action tempo. And then like, well, now like dialogue should go much faster. Like you're not doing like doing like run up sentence. You're just like, oh, it's action, like tap tap tap.
That's right.
Like when.
Yeah. Well, just like again, I'm returning to this jazz analogy that we're talking about. That there's you can have key signature changes in a piece. You can have the time signature change. Now all of a sudden now we're in something else, and that's natural, and it should flow. But it only works if all of the instruments, all of the musicians are on the same page with that. So that requires a lot of attention from the players to one another, and the game master to take his cue from what the players are doing. I actually was going to mention this as I was talking about this, coming to this realization about pacing. Pacing is as much, perhaps more, the responsibility of the characters. Especially if you're not going to fall into this the ubiquitous problem of game masters moving characters around. If we're not going to do that, then the characters are the one that are going to decide the movement, the pace of movement in the world. And the game master is really more to respond to that. Now, Phil mentions pushes and that sort of thing. I think that's entirely appropriate to say, here's a big cymbal crash. Like there's signaling that there's something different that's happening now. And then the players respond to that. Hopefully taking cues from one another as to how quickly this is going to be resolved. And it's okay. We don't mind slow burns too. Like you've said many times, you like slow burns.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, and the next game is going to be like a bit more slow burn. Like that's also like that's also I wanted to be like a little more a little like a few session, like a mini campaign kind of thing.
Yes,
because I want us like, because of the tone, right? I want us to be able to take like a little like it shouldn't be like, I don't think horror should be rushed. You need to,
I don't think so either.
Build up and stuff like that. So that's why like I wanted to.
And this is a good topic, because we're talking about this realism versus symbolism in dungeon design. And I'm not an expert on horror, not like Mr. Dice Tales or yourself, but it seems to me that in order for horror to work, there has to be a very solid grounding in the mundane.
Yes,
like we have to.
That's what I think.
I think then it works, because then it's something that does stand out in sharp contrast for the characters to interact, and then it makes sense that this would be sanity, taxing to our sanity, because it is something that is so far out what we'd be used to. So
that was on the law.
Staying up late, I see. Yeah, aren't you should be in bed.
Yeah, and so like what he's saying, like Dungeon Minister was saying, like there's such a good point. I have a player in one of my games always heading off into chaos. The other are trying to do some real role play, strategic play, and the guy's just going nuts. It's discordant. Right. Yeah, you want some harmony, and that doesn't mean that they'll always have to like tie it up at the hips, like attach at the hips, like Sean or do. Right? They can have like they can have like debate and disagreement and discussion and stuff like that, and they can sometimes split off, right? That's fine, but there need to be a conversation, and they need to be like to keep with the idea of music. Sometimes like sometimes you can have like one instrument doing something and the other one's doing a response, right?
Yes.
And they can go in different direction and do like this push-pull kind of thing. That can be fun, but it still need to be a response to what it's a response. Said.
Otherwise, it's a cacophony. If a cacophony, just complete chaos, and not a one voice responding to another voice and taking something from the previous and riffing on it, and changing it, altering it, sending it back. And it's no longer a conversation. It's just random noise shouting, which isn't. That's not. It just doesn't work unless it's Canadian composition. Modern Canadian music is exactly like that. It's just random noise.
You get subvention.
It's awful. So awful. It's like
what about like the GM as a yeah. What about the GM as a band director? That can
you know what I would prefer to, instead of a band director, I would just say like maybe the first chair, like let's say he's the lead violinist. He's not actually directing the entire orchestra. He's the Dizzy Gillespie or whatever. He's the rhythm. He's the lead guitar. Everyone's going to be listening to what's going on there, but it doesn't dominate all the time. It seeds to other voices. The issue I have with the GM as the director is then it does kind of say, okay, then the onus on tempo, on cueing is all on the game master. And I like the idea of not having to cue players to react. This is Phil and I had a conversation about this.
No, I agree with that.
We shouldn't have to ask, what do? You shouldn't have to cue your players. The players should be able to read the silence as an opportunity to jump in, and whoever jumps in, and then it goes to the next. And I think that works better.
Yeah. And let me see if there's other like
we've got some good comments here. There's some really good comments here.
Yeah, I love when at the end of the major combat, my players are actually like breathless. Oh yeah, as if they've been physically fighting instead of just sitting around and rolling dice. I agree with that.
Yes. It should feel like that, but that kind of frenetic pacing, it's really hard as a game master to get that, to push that on. I feel like that's better when everyone is listening to one another's cues and they're all, like Max, you were saying, everyone is going, okay, we're in action tempo now. We're going, like, this is quick. Be ready. Everyone's on their toes.
And for me, like when I'm GMing, I'm not the one deciding, because it's the character action, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Most of the time, like it could be like, I guess it could be the NPC that's going to initiate the fight, right? But most of the time it's the player that say that, oh no, you wanted the men dance, right?
Yes. Yes. That's
all right then. Yep. Now we're doing that. Yeah.
And we can give, I think that it's entirely appropriate for the game master to be giving options via the NPCs that they're role playing for whether or not this is slow or fast. You can give that as an option, but that's just it's just a suggestion. And it's really up to the players if they want to say, no, we're not doing that. Come on, like we're just going. Or, you know what, maybe we should slow down here and talk this through. Like that's up to them.
Excuse me. I lost
No
my
worries.
No, I have a little like technical issue here.
Oh no. Shall we look at some of these while you're resolving that? Can we?
Do you get an echo when I speak, or when you speak, rather?
I don't hear an echo. No.
I lost my sound. Fuck.
Oh no. Okay. While you're doing that, perhaps I'll just if you want to troubleshoot. Let's see here. We've got Z is making he's mentioning my flashbacks, which is true. Are you back up?
Sorry.
Okay,
yes.
Excellent.
The cat disconnect my
That's such a cat thing to do.
Yes. It's getting enough attention, right? It's just right there and
yeah, sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. The flashback. What was the flashback about?
I think it was. I don't know. It was a while ago. I'm not sure. It could have been flashbacks of me over preparing or something. Very true.
Did Justin Bieber die?
Oh yeah, it's because I mentioned that there's some modern Canadian classical composers that their music is so difficult to listen to. It is essentially all discordant. It's just awful. It's so awful. Anyway, I'm not a fan.
I like music that can be sometimes challenging, but some just go like you're just like it's just random shit.
That's what it sounds like. It just sounds. It's just a cacophony. It's
like you gave like a bunch of a macaque instrument, right?
Yes. There's no. They kind of play. They like some of the modern composers that I've heard. They like to play along with this. They play around, with the idea that you can have a composition with no melody at all. And it's very challenging, but it's very difficult to listen to. And it's very difficult to play because everyone's playing kind of different stuff all at the same time. I'm not a fan. I find it very tedious.
Zed's talk about like playing tennis with the GM. You serve the ball, you catch the ball and send it back. That's something I also like warn about, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I say when you're the GM, don't take a turn after each player.
Right.
Let the player go, and then you take your turn, right?
That's true.
You resolve the scene, because otherwise, like player A do something, GM say, okay, this is what happened, and then player B say, well, I wanted to contribute to that, but now you can because the thing has been resolved already, right? Just go around the table, have what people want to say, and then they say, okay, this happened, and then you go around again, and then.
The big problem there that comes up so often, and we hear this all the time, and I'm often guilty of it myself, is that we want to reframe by narrating back to the player what they've already said their character has done. Just leave it be. It's absolutely fine. Don't have to restate it. You don't have to retell what the player has already done.
There you go. Like, is that now like one send a crazy idea? Game mastering is closer to hypnosis. Maybe even self-hypnosis, repeating to yourself, I'm a fighter, I'm brave, I have a drinking problem, I'm a fighter, until you be like the PC written down out on the character sheet. And like stay in character during the whole campaign, like method role play.
Yeah, sure.
You live your life like brave fighter with a drinking problem. Don't take it too far. But it's a good habit to go like usually like in the game might take me, especially if it's a first time playing character, it might take me maybe 20 minutes to really be in the skin.
Oh sure.
Like take it like, and also like I come to the table, I don't really know what this character is, and I'm discovering the character as I play him, right? And sometimes a new situation arrive that is new for my character. We don't know how he's gonna react.
Yeah.
Because like we're like that as people. Like you face a new situation,
that's right.
You don't really know how you're gonna react.
Until you're in the situation. Many times you don't know until the situation. But I think it's more of a case of, instead of trying to envision. Oh yeah. Hey, thanks. Oh, this he's saying have a good night to Dungeon Minister.
Dungeon Minister. Yeah.
Dungeon Minister. Hey, thank you very much for your comments. Excellent comments.
Yeah, thank you for dropping by, man.
And thanks for the sub. I appreciate it. That's really kind of you. So what I was going to say is it's not an exercise of pre-visioning what your character is doing. It's more remembering how your character responded to the last obstacle situation, and then using that to inform the next decision.
Yep.
It's not so much planning ahead as it is remembering what happened already to that character. And
Yep.
it could just be a couple sentences, but it should inform what the next decision is. I almost died in a dungeon. I should be somewhat reluctant, leery about the next time. Hey, Doc, good to see you.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone here from Shauner? He's okay. Just weird not seeing a multi-hour stream from.
Yeah, I reached out to him. I haven't heard. I reached out to him just to see if he was okay, but I haven't heard back. So.
Oh yeah,
hopefully
it's true. He's been away for a few days.
He has. It's been a few days. I hope he's okay.
Yeah. I was away too.
Yeah, and then we've unfortunately some of our regulars, life has gotten busy, so we'll see less of them. Like the infamous Phil, the unconquerable Mr. Phil. He's very busy this time of year.
Yeah. You say I draw the parallel to hypnosis because after a good session, I feel like I'm waking up from a dream, and then we talk about it.
Sure, you enter that flow state where it's we come out of it, and when we don't want to come out of it. You can. That's how I can tell a good session, like you're saying, Z, is that the player, everyone at the table is like. Afterwards, we just sit there and have a few minutes to like. Wow, what just happened? Yeah, we got to come back to ourselves and
come back to our own skin.
Exactly.
If I want to, Exactly. I feel like we veered. Like it was a good conversation. I feel
we have veered a little
from the topic.
Yes.
I had some more thing to say about the dungeon.
Let's go back.
If you don't mind going back.
No, not at all. Not at all. Let's go back onto it.
So I was talking like the one thing I want to say about like this idea of the dungeon as a mythical place that when you go deep enough, you can break the rules of reality. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to make sense. And again, like I would say, like sometime you don't want to overdo it, but sometimes I think it can be good. It frees you. Like now you can have like this mega dungeon, and you don't have to explain it. You know, it doesn't have to make sense. Mm-hmm. And because oftentimes, like, and when I was a young man, like I had this thing as well, like that. Oh, okay, it needs to make sense, and who built it, and how can we justify it, and then you can find something, and it's still good to do sometime, find something, right? Find some reason that there's this underground place that exists, or this weird tower and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But sometimes also you can just like, well, it's madness. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, right? At some point, some people start digging, and then they got in a place that was weird, they got dug too deep, and then they kept on digging compulsively, and then like at some point the architecture of what they were doing made no sense.
Yes.
Or maybe they had some purpose that you cannot understand. All kind of stuff like that, right? It's like, and it can make for very interesting. Like, they're starting building a tower, like the Babel Tower, right? And just like at some point, like they went mad and decided to, and then like you go in this tower that you cannot see the top because it's hidden in the cloud. And once you're inside, it doesn't have to fit the outside dimension of the tower.
No,
it's bigger than in the inside and the outside. That doesn't matter.
No, I like the idea of things that were created for purposes that are completely unknown. Like I like that. I like that. Some long forgotten age, some ancient part of a forgotten underground whatever it is that was created for purposes that are complete mysteries. This is one of the things I like about the Worlds Without Number base setting, is that they have this idea of the big deeps, these workings from long forgotten ages, thousands of years ago, made by creatures that had completely different ways of thinking, of civilizations that had completely foreign, alien values and motivations, doing things that make no sense to the current in the current explorers. Like it just doesn't make any sense. It is what it is, and part of the adventure is, well, what could it do? We have no idea, and maybe it's never answered. So, yeah. We've got some.
Sorry, you said?
No, I was gonna. That's fine. I was just gonna respond to some of the comments, but no, keep going.
I like the Flamingo. He said like with Surreal Dungeon, the trick is all in or all out. I think that's not a bad idea. If you
If it's
once you
surreal,
start,
sure.
yeah, when you start having, well, I think it can be like gradual.
I like gradual. Is my that was my first comment. Is
Yeah.
I like having layers. The first layer is understood from a almost completely mundane level. Something lives here, it eats, it hunts here, it has food, it has
And
water or
they don't
whatever.
go in the deeper level.
Yeah.
Right. This is like, those are like more mundane beast and monster
Yes.
and animal, right?
And then as you peel back those layers, you get to you start to uncover the unanswered questions, the true mysteries, or
But I
the
think what's interesting,
surreal.
when you go into the surreal, it's not necessarily that you have to go all out, but you have to be willing to go all out.
Yes.
If they keep going deeper, thing can get weirder, right? Like, I think I
Right.
like when there's a ramping up, but there should be like no cap.
No, I
real.
agree. I agree.
Yeah. And the underground, down the dark, because it's implied that you're not just in the dungeon or cavern. You delve past the material plane and enter the underdark.
Is a different.
Yep.
It's a different plane. It's a different plane of existence. It has its own internal rules, but they're not the same as what the normal material plane is.
Yeah.
And they can break some of the rules of the material plane, and that's okay.
And that's something that is very like ingrained in human psychology, right? Going
Sure
into, you go into those weird places deep underground, high on the mountain,
Feywilds,
and like, hell.
Sure.
Like, you look in Greek mythology, like that was a place you can go to.
Yes, you're off the edge of the map, but
Yep.
it is a place. It's off the edge of the map.
Yeah.
Or there be dragons.
And there's a barrier at some point that you cross, and sometimes you don't even realize that you cross it.
Yes.
But now you're not in the real world anymore, right?
No.
And imagine like those places that shouldn't exist. They're interesting to visit. And then when you come back, right? You got this story that nobody's gonna believe.
No one's gonna believe you.
Change
That's
you
right.
and stuff like that, right? You think about that, right? Those characters that
yes.
crosses the sticks, and then like
Yes.
they go into those weird places, or like Dante's Inferno, right? And stuff like that with right. You can have such story like that, but if you want to do that, you have to stop being a nerd that's going to try to rationalize everything, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And I think I think what we discussed so far works well for fantasy game. This comment from Nicolas made me laugh. Plus, that shouldn't exist, but Ryan are
cool to be in. It's why Brazil.
Max like Brazil now makes sense.
All makes sense now. All of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's the surreal.
Sure, it is. Sure.
Yeah. But what you say?
You were going to talk about the fantasy side of things, and does this translate to other?
Does it translate to other thing? Because like when I say like dungeon can be anything self-contained, like you do sci-fi, you're in this starship, maybe it's a starship that has been abandoned, and you go explore what's going on, right?
Just absolutely. I think that I think dungeon, in every genre this has a place. The mythic has a place in every genre. I like to play a lot in modern or near modern settings. It's still fine to have these unexplained things. In many cases, what the unexplained or the weird is the motivation for the villain. It doesn't, why is this happening? Wait a second. Why is he here? That can be the element of the weird or the unknown, the mythic. I think that it has a place in even in mundane settings. And I like science fiction a lot. I'm doing a superhero game, as you know. My superhero game, there's all sorts of mysteries. It's perfect for it to have this unexplained. Why is this happening? They're playing in the modern day city of Denver, Colorado. There's things happening in Denver. I don't have to explain everything that's happening. I'm not dumping exposition on your players rather than have it be an unanswered question. just let it be an unanswered question that they can interact with, or they choose not to, and then you haven't wasted all of your creative time on something that's just of no interest. Let them role play it out.
So when you do like those other settings, do you always like what? Let's talk about like sci-fi, for example. Like, do you
Sure.
always keep a fantastical element, like a spiritual kind of side and thing, right? Just like
I
or
do.
do you?
I do. Yes, I do. And oftentimes it's more of where the metaphysical will come in a sci-fi game is the motivations of groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in a sci-fi setting, it makes sense to me that people are still people and people do things.
Yes.
Hey, have a great night. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for coming
Yep.
by. It makes sense to me that there should be an element of that. I don't like to remove it all. This is the problem I have with some established sci-fi intellectual properties or established fictional settings, is that if they remove too much of the metaphysical, then to me it takes too much of the mystery away. I like having the mystery, a great unexplored expanse that is full of unanswered questions.
Mm-hmm.
If that has been removed and everything has been elucidated upon until the nth degree, it's no longer an exciting place within which to adventure. Everything
Because
is known.
when you go to sci-fi, oftentimes like people are gonna bring the mystery or the mysterious or like the supernatural, like from
Yeah.
Alien, stuff like that.
Sure.
Or
Sure.
the species and like all this.
Sure.
We don't know this a new life form.
Sure.
But I think it's also interesting if you're always ready to go like Event Horizon, right? Just
Yes. Yeah. Something
like,
else.
oh,
Yeah.
the ship went to hell. Or something.
Exactly. There's something that you
What
thought.
happened here, right?
There's a science fiction, a big space opera series that I really like, and it's called The Reality Dysfunction, and it is very much a sci-fi story. It's written by Peter F. Hamilton, but what is involved is the overriding threat is an eroding between the world, let's call it the materialistic world, and the spiritual world.
Mm-hmm.
And people are coming back from the dead now. And yet it's a sci-fi space opera type book.
Yeah.
But what does this mean? What does this mean for the whole species? How are we going to handle this? How do you explain this? This doesn't make any sense. And so you have this tension within the characters as they go through this book of, well, there's science fiction. We understand how to do all these things, but then also there's these people coming back from the dead, inhabiting the living, possessing the living. It's an interesting, I found it to be a very interesting juxtaposition of that science element, but also the metaphysical element, which I find that to be very intriguing. I like the interplay of the two. So anyway,
Yeah,
someone in chat may have read it, but
that sounds interesting. I find like I like this idea because like I do believe like there's the spiritual world like exists separated from the material world, and they kind of like superimpose. And the more we go into rationality and stuff like that, we create a barrage between the two.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you develop your spiritual body, you can kind of go see through that and stuff like that and interact a little bit more with it. But at some point also, like I like the idea that this thing can break.
Yes.
You can have like crack and fissure, and then like the spiritual kind of thing like kind of fall out, right?
Well, and even the major divisions of humanity in the book are split between a faction that are called Edenists, and they're kind of, well, they're fooling around with the biology of human beings and giving them other abilities with a more of a genetic alterations. And then you have the Atomists, and they're not down with this altering the body that way, but they're very heavy into the technology side. So there's this tension, and then on top of that, you have this third unknown, the metaphysical that comes into it, which is that is, back to our subject, that is an introduction of the mythic, the symbol rather than the realism, and the whole thing. And the series is called The Reality Dysfunction, because it is that this interesting play of I keep on saying interesting, but it's that tension between the realistic, the materialist, and then the metaphysical, and how do we resolve that between these various parties? And there's
I think
lots of
those are
gunfights and stuff like that, and spaceships, and I like that. I'm kind of a sucker for that.
those are like a great question to delve into, right? They're
Yeah,
interesting. Like
it
like
is.
when you take a drink and stuff like that, and you start talking with your buddy, like sometimes you're gonna delve into those deeper topics. If you're like
Sure.
a bit of a crowd that is like intellectual, if you just
Yeah.
don't want to talk about like sports ball or jazz music.
Yeah, did you see sports ball game? Did you see?
Yeah.
But like back to your description of the dungeon, because we were talking about this dungeon
Yep.
design. I like this idea. I think that it's applicable in very different genres to just define the dungeon as that self-contained place for adventure, and really that could describe anything. Anything could be that self-contained, and why not?
Because let's say if you take a setting, for example, like a Blade Runner or something like that, right?
Right.
There is an element like a metaphysical element amongst that in those android that start getting like a consciousness,
Sure.
and now you have a question about the soul, right, and the
Yep.
value of life and what defines life.
Morality, ethics. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
there's this question, there's like a philosophical question and metaphysical question baked into the
Yes.
setting because of that. If you were to do if you wanted to do like a dungeon delve in this kind of setting, right, and if you want to go into, you could have like, oh, now you go to Mars on a mine there because the android are used to mine on Mars, right? Now you go there. So now that would be a dungeon. If you want to make this dungeon a bit mythical, you have to break the rational, right? It's not just a mine. It's not just like a base, a structure. At some point, the android that was working on the mine, and maybe that's the reason you go for it. You go there, like they're starting to do weird shit.
Yeah,
that
maybe
don't make
they're
sense.
doing something unexplained. They've changed. And that now that you've introduced this change as the mythic, you don't have to explain it. That's part of the enticement to role play, is that there is this unexplained thing.
Yeah. And now you might not have like physical monster that are weird and stuff like that.
No.
But you have people, they might be android or stuff like that. They may be even a human, like that act in a way that is inhuman.
Right.
In not necessarily inhuman in the sense of like they're violent and stuff like that, and like cruel, which is a very human thing to do anyway. But in a way that you cannot understand the rational, right?
Right.
So those now are your weird monster, right?
I think that actually even has application, Max, to having games that are more into the political intrigue. Like if you're having that, I think that's another one. Well, there's some intrigue happening here, and that can be the element of the mythic. It doesn't have to always make complete sense. People do things for a variety of reasons, and maybe this particular intrigue that's happening, using your Mars example, we're playing around with the idea of when does a separate group discover that identity that makes them separate themselves? Like, is this a separatist movement within the Mars collective, or do the androids now feel like they're something else entirely? Is that sort of thing delving, even straying a little bit into the mythic? Do the androids now have a shared collective vision? They've all had the same dream. They're dreaming. They shouldn't be dreaming. Why are they dreaming? There can be that as a
and you can link that as well, like to like maybe there's something connected to the planet itself.
Maybe
right?
there's something there. Maybe they have connected with the metaphysical, and we're introducing that.
What about like there's this big face on Mars, right? You can play like whatever, right? You can bring stuff like, oh, now they touch something or discover a substance or something that shouldn't, right? You can play it all kind of different, but like those are, you don't need to have those answer up front.
No,
you can make them on the spot, right?
You make them up on the spot. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I really like this question from Kirk Fort here. Is that where you're going?
Kirk. Oh, yeah, there were some great ones here. Trout Nemesis had a good comment. Gulshan Ibnis, I'm probably saying your name wrong. I apologize. Good comment there too.
I'll go back up.
Let's go back up. Yeah, because I don't want to miss.
All right, Carol, come back because I don't want to make people wait too much and jump the shark.
Exactly.
Yeah. Player theories and substitution and paranoia is one of the more entertaining thing to me as a GM anyway.
Completely agree. I
Completely,
completely
yeah.
agree.
And that's fodder, right?
It
That's
is.
you
It
feed
is.
on that.
Your
Yep.
players, I don't know. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, Max. I find that I get way better ideas from the players than my own. Like
Yeah.
I tend to like their theories of what as they're talking in character. I'm like, oh, I'm convinced a vampire is involved. You know, it may not be exactly a vampire. I mean, I do have some ability to alter and surprise the obstacle, but
And
I'm still taking their idea.
you don't always want to go with your idea,
No, no.
but once in a while it's a good idea to do so, right? Just like,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, oh there
Absolutely.
you go, you figured it out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's
But it,
incredibly rewarding for
yeah,
players through their characters to have
but you
that.
also want to throw them some curveballs sometime, right?
Absolutely. I like to tweak it a little bit. Like it's
Yeah,
part of that, but it's not all of it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And they don't know if it's all of it sometime too, right? It's
no,
like, you thought you figured it out, right? You had part of the answer, right?
it's just
Yeah.
so rewarding to be surprised. And those and I've done this. I'm very guilty of this. If I'm just in love with my own plot
Yeah.
and my
That,
own storyboard, I'm never going to be surprised.
mm.
I think it's better to embrace the randomness of
Not
player
only you
decisions.
don't get surprised, you get frustrated.
You do, because
Mhm,
the stupid players just aren't doing what I want them to do. Right?
mhm.
It's the wrong way of doing things.
Yeah. Good sci-fi usually has an unexplainable phenomena. Art sci-fi especially can evoke awe or wonder because the mysterious element is constructed against the otherwise realistic world.
Yes,
Yeah.
I like. Is a great comment. Completely agree. Goes back to our discussions earlier with if you're going to introduce the weird, it has to be a juxtaposition. It has to be in contrast to the mundane. That's
Mm.
when it works the best. Now, the
Yeah.
mundane can already be a bit of a stretch for us, especially in a sci-fi setting. But that's why I think that's why people are drawn to the aliens, kind of truckers in space,
Yeah.
because the
There's a
trucker in
mundane.
space thing is more mundane. I can kind of understand these people are talking
Yeah.
about their wages, they're upset about overtime,
You can
that
relate.
we can relate to that.
Mm.
It's very mundane. I mean, they're
That's
wearing ball
amazing.
caps, and then you introduce the strange on top of that and it
Yeah.
really pops.
Yeah. And also like I like also the idea of like I often say like heroism is ordinary people doing extraordinary stuff, right?
Oh, completely.
I think
Completely.
there's this idea as well.
Mhm.
But and I like also they say like good sci-fi usually because that's what's oftentimes bad sci-fi. They're gonna try to over explain everything, and
Everything and
same thing with like I like fantasy. Some fantasy author I cannot stand that
yeah.
try to do like, oh, it's our magic system. I'm gonna explain all the magic work. Like I don't fucking care. It's supposed to be
No.
magic, right?
It's okay
Just like
you don't have to. I think this is a good advice for us as game masters and as players. You don't have to explain every last
no,
detail. It's okay to just say in broad terms, this is a limitation. This is how roughly this is a theory of how it works, but we're not
yeah,
going into the esoteric details. We're
and
just
also like
going to say in a basic way, here's what it is, here's the limitation.
let your player make theory that what their character believe, right?
Yes, yes,
There's this thing that is mysterious and like let them like their character is allowed to believe something that is not true
yes.
or that is
Have their
like
super
maybe
yeah.
even stupid, right? Just like
Yeah. Be dumb,
yeah,
have superstitions. Phil has done a great job with this in many of his characters.
yeah,
He'll have his characters will have their own opinion on this. In the Rising Sands game, he was playing a character that was not used to magic at all. So
hmm
in especially in early sessions of that three I think we had 3 sessions in total. The
yeah,
earlier ones, his character reacts to magical things happening around him with awe and wonder, and it's great. Like Rick was playing a wizard or
yeah.
a mage, and he would do things, and Phil's sand warrior guy would just be you
Yeah.
would be awestruck.
And like when we did the session 0 for the next game or one of the next game we're gonna do, like
Mhm.
the Modern Citadel or the Fervent Citadel, right?
Yes.
Like there's this disease, this scourge and stuff like that. And
Yes. Yes.
I don't know what caused it, and
No,
your
and that's
character don't
okay.
either. And
It's
make like
lost. It's
yeah,
lost, and that's
and
okay.
have your character have a theory for it, maybe right? Just like maybe there's something they believe. You can come up with it. I'm not gonna feed. I don't need to spoon feed it to you.
No, no.
And then that's gonna be more interesting. And then like that's
It
something you
will
can
be more
discuss at some
interesting.
point with
Yeah.
NPC and stuff like that, right? Oh, I
Yep.
already was this thing, and then like right, maybe
Yep.
your character can believe something stupid,
That's okay.
or
It's
maybe
okay.
it's the thing something true, or maybe
It's all right. Just like in it, to me, it's a more it's a world which is easier for me to suspend disbelief if there's a variety of opinions that
yeah,
exist at the same time in the world amongst the characters.
yeah,
Someone thinks this, someone thinks that. There isn't a consensus on this, especially if we're playing with time and
mm-hmm.
this particular disease, the fervor. It was a while ago, generations ago, and well, who knows where its origin is? Does it even matter anymore? Um,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it does. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't.
Yeah. It's just background stuff anyway.
It is. It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Raphael Chandler, Starship from Hell, RPG supplement is great. Definitely channel Event Horizon. There you go.
Event Horizon is a very interesting movie. Very good.
Yeah, it got its flaws, but it's
Mhm.
interesting. It's a bit like gory for me.
Yeah,
You
me
might
too.
say,
I
yeah.
won't watch it again. I what I at first I don't think it was this one. There was another sci-fi movie, and it was a sci-fi horror movie. I'm forgetting the title. In the trailer, they were using like kind of upbeat 1970s pop music, and it was a strange. It was totally didn't fit the tone at all, but for some reason it worked, and it's kind of stuck with me. All right, this Treasure Planet comment.
Yeah, animated movie, solar sail for ship, flying through space with space whale. It's such a cool universe, but explaining how everything works limits the imagination.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
I
In
don't.
that setting, they do not make any attempt to explain why in space they don't need to have spacesuits. They just it's
Yeah,
in my opinion, Treasure Planet, that animated Treasure Planet, isn't
fuck, it's been
really
too long.
sci-fi. It's to me, it's more
Fantasy.
sci-fantasy, maybe, or
Mm-hmm.
I
No, that's
like
so.
it. I think it's good.
Been a while since I've seen it.
It's a good one. And my son absolutely loved that one. That was one of his favorites way back when.
Yeah. That's the comment I want to like. Do you think sci-fi game tell different? And that's a good follow-up to what we just with Treasure Planet. Do you think sci-fi game tell different story, theme than fantasy game?
I'm gonna do a terrible thing. I'm gonna sit on the fence on this. I'm gonna say they can tell the same stories in terms of human stories, but if it's sci-fi, I like it to have my sci-fi. I like my sci-fi games to have some element of science in it,
Yep.
super science. It could be mythical science even, but I do think sci-fi games, science fiction in general, should be informed somewhat on that intersection between humanity and science. Otherwise, it's not. It could be told in any. It could really be told in anything. It could be told in a modern. It could be told in
Yeah, that's
you know.
something I talk about sometime, right? Just like I talk about that before. There's sci-fi that can be just background,
Mm-hmm,
and you can have a sci-fi story, right? A
mm-hmm.
sci-fi like that has been the theme, and we see that sometimes in movie, right? You
Yes.
can take a movie. There's some movie that are sci-fi movie, but you could tell the same story in any setting, right?
Yeah.
Then that's not a real sci-fi story.
No. No.
Sci-fi is just background, it's just setting, right?
Yeah.
Sci-fi, if you really want to do something that is sci-fi, right? There need to be some question that touch to technology or science and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the same thing could be said with fantasy to some extent. You could have like just
Yes.
a random story that is set in a fantasy right setting, and a lot of people do that, and you're kind of shortchanging yourself, right? If the fantastical element don't have an impact in the game, they're just like backdrop, well then why have them at all, right?
Yeah. True.
You just want like, and that's also oftentimes what we see with the when we say like all those race or just like human in skin suit.
It's
Oftentimes
window
there's those, like,
dressing.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's just window dressing.
it's window
Yeah.
dressing. It's not really meaningful. It's not material. I like, if it's a science fiction game, I want the science portion of it to be material to the game and not just a window dressing of the game.
Yeah. I don't mind sometimes if it's just like, it's a sci-fi game, but the sci-fi is just like kind of like just
That's
setting,
okay.
right?
Sure.
Just like
Sure.
that's cool. Because we can like I said, like there's story that you can tell, there's story that are worth telling,
Mhm.
that are interesting, that can be told in any setting.
It's
Something that is like,
I completely agree, Max. And I
yeah,
think that the other thing too, to answer Kirk's comment here or question, because I'm only starting with the rough idea of the starting obstacle.
yeah,
It's really up to the players as well to see what are they looking for. Are they looking for more of a science part of it, or are they looking more for the human part of it? And that'll inform, of course, what ends up being the story after we're finished
yeah.
the game and we look back and say, well, that was kind of interesting. It went
Mhm.
different directions. It didn't necessarily have to be science fiction, or maybe the element was front and center. Or it's really more up to the players,
Well,
not just up to me.
sometimes like, it's gonna be kind of the baked in the theme of the game, so
True.
it's gonna have some impact. But like if the player
Yeah.
the character interact less with it, then that's fine. You just roll with,
You just roll
as,
with it. Yeah.
yeah. But like that's what I'm saying. Like there's like, I would say like there's story that are like specifically sci-fi story.
Yes.
There's story that are specifically fantasy story, and then you have like universal stories
Yes.
that could be applied to any different setting.
Right.
And at that point, the setting just become like a,
Yeah. And those, are you referring to things like that, man versus nature, man versus himself, man versus,
it's
those kind of things?
there's that's kind of part of it.
Mhm.
It's not directly. It's like, it's, if you want to have a specifically sci-fi story, oftentimes you're gonna have a question about like, often the place of man in the universe and stuff like
Yes,
that,
our
right? Yeah,
place, or the intersection. Like, how does the super science affect our ethics? Is
yeah,
there an ethical question here? How are we going to answer that? How
yeah.
does it affect our belief? Is
Like,
this
the Blade Runner thing, right? When
yes?
you create artificial life that
What
start
does it
becoming
mean to be
conscious, like,
human? Yeah,
exactly, like
yeah,
that's a typical like sci-fi story,
it
right?
is very much
So,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm,
Mhm.
and if you go like typical like fantasy story, oftentimes they're gonna be more like, what if gods that go mad, or
Yes, yeah. Or
you know
what if the gods do meddle directly
yeah,
in with humanity? How does that look? And yeah,
yeah, or like, what if the sins of men materialize in some way, like,
oh
we're talking about
sure,
dragon, about
yeah,
something stuff like that, right? Just like,
yeah.
like you have a physical, like suddenly you have a material or physical representation of something that is spiritual, then
Mhm.
you're in the typical like fantasy story.
Yes.
Yeah, and the universal are about human stuff,
The human things, yeah.
which, like I said, are still story that are worth telling.
Absolutely. And they're
But
not, again, it's not mutually exclusive. You can have all of those, and it's probably good to have all of
yeah,
those elements, much like
yeah,
the Matt and Nick at BLG were talking about a few months ago with the game as soap opera, the interplay between people in different, essentially different stories that are resolving at the same time with different motivations. And yeah. Anyhow, Z's got some comments here.
yes, it's a absolutely agree with Mr. Crispy. I guess that's why you wanted me to read that, eh?
Correct, sir. Yes, that's why I wanted
My
this one.
my best idea come from bouncing them off with Nicholas or Phil or you guys. When I'm locked in my room thinking of something cool, it's often way too basic.
True.
Yeah, it's like, that's the, because then other people inspire you, and then like you make a, yeah, and that's also like the beauty of this hobby, right? It's not something,
Yeah.
like, oh, some people do like the solo RPG. Like, personally, I don't get it, because like I wouldn't get what I'm looking for from this hobby.
Right.
Mm.
I think that the main thing, what we want to do is we want to just create that first obstacle,
Yep.
and then just let him go. Let the
Yes.
world go.
We got the ball rolling.
Get the ball rolling. think about, your characters. What are your characters doing? How would they respond to this? I like the heroic, he
But
says.
like when I was doing like this last session 0, like I said, okay, this is gonna be this is the conflict in the world. This is like what's happening.
Yeah.
And I told you like, and I want to do a game where like that's gonna happen in the city. So you find a reason to that you want to go there, and you did.
Sure.
And that's I really like where you're going with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting now the character that you came up with that. Like
Mm-hmm.
there was a limitation because I would like that's my way of getting the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I want the ball like to I want you to go there because
Yeah.
that's the game I want to that's the thing I want to explore, right?
Right.
But you have to get there, right? Like you
Yes.
find like I leave you the freedom to find the reason why you get there.
Mm-hmm.
And what you chose, I wouldn't have thought that. But
Well,
I
and
think
I
it's
like that because it is, again, a lot of our my discussions with Phil in our little thing that's unfortunately on hiatus for a while, but because life is busy. But
Yeah.
a lot of what we talk about is that player independence and
Yes.
giving players independence to come up with the reasons why they would be trying to accomplish X, Y, or Z. Like, why are they doing that? That's not imposed by the game master. That's something that comes from the player and helps them get into the mindset of that character that they're creating.
Yeah. Zed say I like the heroic. I want players to put the hero in superhero. Whether they play a fighter, wizard, rogue, astronaut, Jedi, engineer, every human or meta-human, have the spark within for I believe that as well. Like everybody can have the spark for heroism, and that's a big problem I have with the superhero genre.
Mm-hmm.
Is like then you're not ordinary people doing extraordinary stuff. You're extraordinary people doing stuff that is for you. Mundane,
Yeah,
right?
and here's the counter argument to that, Max. The
Yes.
reason I love superhero games as a genre is because the game really isn't about your powers. It's about morality. You can do things that would be well and beyond what your conscience would let you do. And so the game is playing the conscience of someone that has power of a god, but the morals of someone who would not abuse that power. And yet the temptation is always there.
That's probably like the problem I have, because like I'm the guy that always say like I don't understand why Superman does just fucking declare himself ruler of the world.
Yeah, and he would, except that the game is he has to limit himself or become the thing he fights against.
But he shouldn't fight against them. He could be like a benevolent ruler.
Well, he could,
but you see that made my own like personal morality.
Yes, of course.
Like, you're just being a fucking idiot, right?
Well, in this,
I want to play.
Yeah, I can. It's not for everybody. I understand, but what I like about it is we have one of the characters in the game that I'm playing. We randomly rolled up he's got this ability where you can increase the gravity on an object or person by 50 times. Well, that would just pancake. You put 50 Gs on someone, they're flat. Like 10 Gs, they're blacking out. Like fighter pilots can pull 9 for a short period of time before they G lock and they're unconscious. He can do orders of magnitude bigger than that. Yet he is a good man. He's trying to play a good person.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. Like
you can't just kill everybody. Like this is.
I think I might have a different vision of what good is. That's
maybe, but we're saying, well, okay, you're in our like the way we're playing it out is that you have powers that would allow you to be the ruler of all, potentially, each of you in your own kind of tyrant type way, but you're playing as heroes in the traditional sense that would exercise judicious use of that power so as not to hurt the innocent, and very, very careful about how they're doing that and how is that affecting them. Is this changing them over time? It's much more. It's not as much about the power as it is the morality and the ethics of the power.
Yep. You see, and for me that would be like an interesting thing to explore, right? I would be
Mhm.
interesting in that, like explore, like if we, but it'd be like a much different game than like if it's just a game about like, oh, I have power, I'm gonna go punch some bad guy in the face. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
like,
boring.
like,
That's dull.
and another
Yeah.
movie, that's what it is. Like, oh, there's a big
Yes.
blue beam, and we know they're the bad guy because they want to do this
Yeah.
cartoonishly evil thing, and there's
Yeah.
a big blue beam in the sky. We need to go there and punch people in the face, right? That's like, who the fuck care?
Exactly. Exactly. I don't
But
care about that. I want to play, but I again I play with adults, and so
yeah,
I'm more there. We're more interested in, well, what would this mean? Like what kind of, like one of the other characters in the game, he has this ability that would make him, target, public enemy number one for every government in the world. He can read any message. He can break into any computer. No encryption can keep him out. He has the ability to do it. There's nothing that can stop him. The only thing that stops him is his own conscience and the fact that he decided as the player that he was going to have a family. So he has a wife and young kids. And so he's very concerned about their well-being. And because of that, he self-limits what he could do. He could, according to the power, there's really not a lot that he couldn't do when it comes to breaking into secure information, just bringing down financial systems, breaking through every blockchain. He could have every crypto wallet that he wanted at any time. It's just as, but he doesn't, because he's trying to play this family man that's more concerned about his wife and his kids. He's got two young daughters. He's decided, and
and then like if you want to make a living, right, an honest living out of this
how do
power,
you
right,
make
it's
it?
very
Yes.
hard as
And so he's
well.
like, well, do I just go after bad guys? But then that puts a big target on my back. How do I determine
Do you
that?
go
And
work for the government, but then
do I
let
work
the
for the
government
government?
do
But
like
then they're going to
shady
want me to
stuff?
do, they're going to
Yeah,
get me doing things that are immoral, and I don't want to do that. And I already know their secrets. So they can't even hide anything from me. So I know what this, it's interesting to see him play that. Not so much as that, hey, I can have unlimited wealth because I can break into anything just by touching it. I don't even need to touch it. That's his ability. He can just meld with the computers and have his way with them. But he exercises restraint, and that's the game. Is him running that fine edge of, when have I gone too far? Much like the guy that can punch through brick walls and throw cars. He's got to be aware that there's someone else potentially on the other side of that wall. And what happens if he kills someone, a pedestrian or some lady with a stroller? And
consequences.
there's consequences for that. And so they're constantly, oh, how is this going to work? So anyway, that's maybe way off topic, but on that
Maybe we should talk
heroic.
about that at some point, like the superhero genre. If you
Yeah.
like,
And I think
it
the
cannot be
reason
unfilled because you're bought into that, right? Just like if you
I
try
like
to
it.
I have some question, but like I think I'm gonna hold them off for another time.
Sure, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. If you're describing something, a narrative for more than 3 sentences, you're screwing up. I think that's a good rule of thumb.
It is a good rule of thumb, and it's
Yeah.
it's good to practice limitations on yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And also, like I often say, like, you want to describe what's important, what's relevant,
Yes.
the fine details. Sometimes people want to add a lot of flavor and stuff like that and describe a lot, and stuff that is inconsequential.
Consequential. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's also like that's one thing that we do with the co-creation, right? This
Mhm.
stuff can be added by the player by
Yes.
them interacting with it, right? Just like,
That's right.
so it shared a load, and it allows them to anchor themselves to the scene, and it cut your description time, and it create like the definition get increased
Yeah.
over time. But
That's the key, Max. It works best when it cuts the description down from the game master. If the game master is going to spout flowery descriptions and do exposition dumps, it hurts that co-creation. It
yes,
doesn't, it almost
yeah,
makes it so that you're ruining the objective behind the 4D style, which is you're limiting yourself so that others can play more.
and for me, like I find it's a case of less is more, because if
Yes,
you
it
just like
is.
describe the broad line, right? I find it free the imagination of the player
It does.
to fill in the blank, right?
It does.
They don't need a license from the GM to imagine
Yes.
stuff,
They don't.
because you kept it like general enough that they're gonna do it, right? Just like that helps a lot to avoid the question like, oh, is the door
Oh
made
yeah,
this way, or like
completely.
whatever. That's like those like
Great
probing
example of
questions,
this in my
right?
game this week, Max, where I just described this was they're having a major obstacle in this one of these U.S. evangelical mega churches kind of thing, where there's a
Yeah,
massive sanctuary, and I just describe a massive sanctuary with stadium seating and a big stage in the front, and I just leave it at that. And at some point during the conflict that's going on there, one of the characters describes jumping up and grabbing those metal girders that where they hang all the lights. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah,
I didn't describe
right.
that,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he's been in concert halls where you have the lights set up on the ceiling and they're hanging from one of those metal girder things, gantry. I don't know what
yeah,
the term is for it, but what I thought was so good about it is that it showed that he was already imagining
yeah,
the location there without waiting for a description, and certainly without saying, uh, is there any lights on the ceiling, like spotlights or another element where he's like he wants to grab something heavy and throw it at a bad guy, and so he reaches down and grabs one of those heavy speaker monitors on the stage that are pointed up, where I didn't have to describe that. He's seen enough stages. He's been to concerts. He's maybe even been to one of these big mega church style sanctuaries where he could envision it and interact with it. It's much better that I limited my narration to just here's what it is,
yeah.
and then they could fill in the details.
Yeah, because if you had like filled up like and said, oh, and then the
Oh,
lights are like that, and then this and the stage is
yeah,
this color, and like then
exactly.
at some point like, oh, okay, now like
Trusses. Yeah.
everything is detail, so
Yeah.
I have to ask how things are, right? Just like, yeah, I think it's a good habit to have. Like 3 sentence, probably like fair.
It's
But
a good rule of thumb, and they're
yeah,
called trusses. That's right. Space Roadie is right.
oh yeah,
That's what it is.
because because it's a roadie.
It's probably set them up.
Yeah. What is you know what the
I
PKD
don't
is?
know what that is. I'm sorry, Kirk. I don't know what
Oh, yeah, I
PKD
don't know
is.
what it is either. Yeah. Fantasy isn't about interesting idea, it's about regurgitating cliche.
Yeah, it's true. There's tropes that reappear. That is true.
Tropes are useful.
Yeah.
Like don't try to throw out all the tropes, because you want
No,
your player to be able to make assumption.
they're heuristics. They're
Yeah.
shortcuts. It's
If you
okay to
exactly.
have. It's okay to have and use shortcuts.
Yeah.
I do all the
And
time. Yeah.
if you want to go against the trope,
Yeah.
you need to have a good reason for it, in my opinion.
Yes.
Just don't do it to be different. That's not
True.
good reason enough, right? Just
Again,
like,
that comes back to this idea of symbolism and
yeah,
realism. Too
yeah,
much of it, and it breaks down, in my opinion.
yeah. So it might be possible to have an interesting fantasy game, but we all have a capital F fantasy is completely poison.
The Well of Capital F Fantasy, is that like standard D&D fantasy? Is that what that is?
Yeah, yeah. Standard for D&D fantasy is like the quintessential of like fantasy that is like bland and tasteless, because there's too much. Everything's
There's
been
too
mundane,
much.
right?
Yeah, there's too much.
Yeah, yeah. Like the good fantasies start with a mundane world, in my opinion.
I agree.
And then you want the
It goes back to
fantastical
that
element.
layers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Goes back to what we were talking earlier.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's yeah. I can definitely see that people have the preconceived notion and do not want to let go of them, or take their contemporary 21st century and shove it. Oh yeah, that's fucking like, yeah, the 21st
Is that
century.
kind of like, I've seen these pictures circulating on X of the like tacos and sushi and hamburgers, and
Yes, yes.
I saw that too, and I thought, oh, that's that's for the modern audience, but I really don't like that. I think to me
It's
that
part of that.
breaks the verisimilitude of the game. It's like all this.
It's also like when they bring their modern politics and
Yeah,
modern
yeah, that does the same thing
their
too.
modern values in the
Yeah.
fantasy setting, right?
Sure.
That's a big problem as well, right?
It
Just
can
like
be, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah, like you say, like a completely lack of imagination. Yeah, that's that's
I
when we see
agree
like the
with
Sims 2.
Z. There's the problem is, and I'm not sure, I don't know the culprit behind the problem, but I worry that there's a dearth of imagination in just in general. And I don't know if it's because people are their pastimes are changed, or maybe it's our attention span is too low, or we just don't spend enough time daydreaming anymore, or whatever it is. Maybe we don't imagine as much. There's just not. It's much more because I've introduced a lot of people to the hobby over the last several years, and I always tell them, look, you shouldn't be trying to put an image for everything in the world on, like, because we used to use a TV as our battle map, and I would have
Yeah,
maps coming up, and then they're like, wouldn't it be great if we all put on augmented reality glasses, or we did something
yeah.
like that, where VR glasses where we could and I've even seen some
Defeat the purpose.
and I said that it completely defeats the purpose. This should be an exercise of pretend and imagination. If we do that, you don't have to imagine anything. This is the
Yeah,
problem I have with the, hey, our new virtual tabletop is using Unreal Engine 5, so look at the graphics. I'm like, that is completely antithetical to what I want
and
my players to do. I
that's gonna
don't
be like
want them.
welcome to fucking Railroad City because like
Yeah, because
now that
oh, I don't
Jeff is
have
gonna
the
prepare
assets for
those
that.
map. Yeah, he's gonna prepare
Yeah.
those map. He's gonna prepare those encounter, those setting and stuff. Well, he's gonna use them. He put fucking hours in there, right? Just like
Exactly. And it does what it does. It's
yeah,
programmed for a certain thing. It's the exact wrong direction to go. We want to
yeah,
move away from that and more into the imagination. I just worry that people are they're lazy. They're not able to imagine anymore because they're just used to being able to see it
yeah,
and see it without using their mind's eye.
yeah.
It's a
It's like
problem.
laziness, right? Just like
It's kind of
no,
lazy.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know, video game mentality. Especially
Yes.
this, I never get into heroic games. Give me the gray morality or the of the spaghetti western or the mob flick. I
I
don't think,
agree with you.
yeah,
I
but I
play
don't
superhero
think
games with
they're
I play them with the gray of morality because I
yeah,
do think a
because
superhero game is a morality game.
and I don't think those two are like are necessarily like incompatible, right? Just like they
Mhm.
can play well together because like you might like the gray morality thing is oftentimes like you want to do the right thing, but you're not sure what the right thing is.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there's that as well. So you can still
Yes.
try to be heroic in that, but then like maybe you screw up, you make mistake, you're flawed, right?
There's trade-offs. You
There's
have to make
trade off.
decisions. Someone lives, but that means someone else dies. Like what?
Yeah.
How do you decide? Yeah.
But I think you like if you want to have an interesting game, I almost say you need to have gray morality because otherwise there's gonna be if everything is too black and white, then there's like no it's just not
No.
it becomes just about punching the bad guy. The bad guy always
Exactly.
the bad guy. You just go there, you kill them, right? Just
Just
like
do this one thing. There's
yeah.
obviously a solution here.
Yeah.
There's a right answer. I'm like, there's maybe a solution to this, maybe not. Maybe there isn't a
Yeah.
clear solution.
Yeah, and what is oh maybe we can solve this in this way or in that way. What is the
Mhm.
best way? Like for me, like you need to have this those shade of gray, right? Like it the like I often say, like in role playing game, you want to give the player should have choices.
Mhm. Mhm.
Player and the character, both of them, should have non-obvious choices to make.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's the important part, right?
exactly.
Because that's what we
Exactly.
do, right? It's all about that. Like we make choice, and then
And yeah, you're
we
absolutely right,
come to
Max.
another choice.
And to add to that, the to just discuss for a second, where is the genesis of those choices? Like those choices are not coming from me. I'm not giving you options.
No, no,
It's not A, B, or C as described by me. You have to come up with it. There's
yeah.
not a yeah,
Yeah,
because I
you
sent
come
it.
up with the own up. You come up with the own option.
Yes,
Like
I
the
sent
option,
it
the option you have, or the option you see,
as the
and the option
character.
exactly the option you came up with, right? As like, oh,
And those options you came up with as the character are informed by what the character has done already.
yeah,
And it's not, it's not a case like we see so often out there where players are waiting for the game master to say, well, you could go here or you could go here, or you could do this, you could do X, you could do Y. No, that's a choose your own adventure story. That's no longer a role-playing game.
Yeah. Many such cases.
Many such cases. It is not the way.
Mr. Incredible didn't just beat up bad guys. He loved being adored.
Yeah.
And when the world didn't want superhero anymore, he fell into the abyss and had to find himself again for what he lives for.
Yeah.
But he liked to be adored, it's true. But even then, he went to do the superhero thing, even though he wasn't allowed to.
Yeah. It was his identity.
More.
He had lost his identity. Who was he without it? And that's an interesting question. That's
I
an
quite like
interesting
the movie, the Incredible movie.
I did too. I thought it was quite well done.
Yeah. For sure, in description, I start with first impression. If there's a dead body in the room, that's about all I'm going to mention.
Yeah.
I see my roles being the there's sense, not storytelling.
And he brings up a great point. If you should always, the description should always emphasize or end on the main thing instead of just random things. Like it would be completely, if you're staying to that 3-sentence rule, if your last sentence was the color of the drapes and the second sentence was the body laying on the floor, you've done something wrong. You should probably switch those around. Draw the attention to what you is the what would in reality, what would the character see? Like also, if you would see that first, it would be the first thing that stood out to you. It's out of the ordinary. It breaks from the mundane.
It's the first thing you would see, but you say it last.
Yes.
It's kind of like a first in, first out.
Yeah,
right?
it's like, that's right. Yeah.
But it's also like if there's something shocking like that, right?
Yes.
That's a different thing. If you just enter a room and there's not like a big like, whoa, okay, that's gonna take all my attention right now.
Yeah.
Then that rule might change a bit, right?
Sure, sure it could. But I still like that 3-sentence. Anything more than that, probably too long.
Yeah, because if you enter a bank, right? We all have an idea what a bank is, and there's nothing special in that bank. You just enter a bank for a reason or another.
It's a
right?
bank. Yeah,
it's a bank, right? You don't need to describe much. You might describe like you might want to give a vibe for the type of bank,
sure,
how busy it is,
yes,
and how well it does, right, or something like that, right? But then, like just like how big it is or something like that.
You don't have to describe the color of the pens on the little chains that are. It's just the bank.
Don't mention the pen on with the chain, right?
No,
like
let the player do that.
That's the kind of thing that some GM would describe because like, oh, then it's gonna create something that we can all relate to. But like, you don't need to add that because player can fucking like think about that themselves, right?
I think
they've been to a bank before. Well, I guess maybe people don't go to bank anymore. I don't know.
Well, probably not. It's probably all online banking. But I wonder though if this is a bit of it's just a thought that occurred to me as you were giving that example. I wonder if this is a bit of an artifact from those of us that started young in the hobby where we didn't have life experience. So we relied on the description of the game master for every last detail. Now we're older. We've lived life. We've had experiences. We don't need to be held by the hand. We don't need those training wheels anymore. Don't need to be told what the inside of a bank looks like. Or you've seen enough. You've seen enough of it that it's informing you that you can use your imagination.
I can see where you're going with that, but in the same time, if you're young and you're not very clear what the inside of a bank looks like, and the other people you're playing with, they probably don't know either.
They don't know either, so it can stay low resolution. It doesn't matter.
And it's the same thing if I describe like you going to a church of this different religion in a fantasy setting, like you don't know what that looked like either, right?
No.
Just like you had the same kind of a lust. So
true.
You make an image and then we interact with that, and then the resolution get increased.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. So it doesn't really matter. Like I said, like I can see where you're going, and I can think that it could be like a reflex that we will have.
Yeah.
But I would still advise against it.
Absolutely. Don't do it.
Yeah. What I said, did you guys pull the Kingsman on that game?
I'm not sure what you mean, Nicholas. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, I know the choices. Yeah,
Maybe.
Hollywood has been subverting expectation for 10 years. Yeah, another
Oh,
exactly. There's nothing. Yeah,
so true. It's
yeah.
so tedious.
Now, like my expectations are subverted when a movie is actually good.
I know. I know. You're like, we're going to subvert your expectations and actually have something good that you'll want to
Yeah,
watch. Oh man.
yeah. Algorithm brain cannot faster creativity. Now, like people are just like, yeah. No one read books anymore. Studies a story, whatever. So they just want to shove what they know into the game. So it's a very stubborn. Oh, that's a yeah.
It does seem that way, Gulshan. It does seem like there's a there just seems to be something lacking in imagination. And
A lot of people also like a lot of like those modern GM. They do propaganda with their game.
yeah, they do. They
Mm.
do.
I often say
They
like
have a
no,
message. They want to get their
yeah,
message
yeah,
across.
and that's something we see with modern movie as well. Like like
They
I say
do.
like I believe that good art asks question,
Sure.
propaganda force you answer.
Yeah, there's only one
Yeah,
if there's only one possible interpretation of that story, or that if there's only one
yeah,
interpretation of that, then it's propaganda.
yeah, and that's also something I see some GM doing that. Right?
Yes.
They want to have a team. They want to have like this moral question in your game, and I think that's great. That's a good idea, but don't make it a lesson to your player. You
No,
don't
and
want to. You don't like. Oh, we're gonna explore this moral question, and I'm gonna make them realize that
yeah.
racism is bad or whatever kind of bullshit people think now. Right?
You can
Like,
put the quandary, the you can put the dilemma in front,
yeah,
and that dilemma in front is fine. Let the players through their characters interact with it, and and
and
take it in unexpected ways.
as a GM, you want to bring you like be honest about it.
Sure.
You bring the question, and through the game, you're gonna explore the question. Don't come
Yeah.
with your mind already set up, right?
No.
Don't come with the answer that you want to feed the player, right?
Or yeah, you're not
We'll see what it is.
it comes back to this the same thing, the storytelling, but which I'm vehemently against. But the other thing too, bringing it back um, to the topic of our conversation tonight, I
Yeah,
wonder if this also is part of the reason why there can be this extreme reluctance to have the symbolic, because the power behind symbols is that they could have multiple meanings at the same time. The realistic dungeon, it has one, because it's realistic. It has
yeah,
a clearly a demonstrable logical progression always. Where the symbolic comes in, it starts to violate those rules of realism. And I wonder if some of that is in evidence here, as Gulshan's comment is talking about. They don't want to have the symbolic. They don't want to have something that's ill-defined. They want
no.
something, perhaps
They're afraid that people
we
could come with the wrong conclusion, right?
yeah, because if it's too symbolic, then I could put that as symbolic in a way that is unforeseen by the author, or the person that's moralizing, using the game as a vehicle to get their message across. I wonder if that's part of the reluctance to use the mythic or the symbolic, because it could go any direction. It could have
Yeah,
multiple meanings at the same time.
yeah, and make it more interesting. So Zed say it's like throwing all the color together and mixing them until the color all turn into a brown mush. Yeah, if you do that
Yeah,
every time,
totally.
it's always gonna be the same result, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
Space
your
Roadie, you're
graphic aren't as
absolutely right.
cool as my imagination. Exactly, like you're always
100%
gonna be like,
true. And it doesn't have to be the same. Your imagination can be different than what the player next to you is imagining, and you can both interact in the world effectively. We've had this many times where I didn't imagine it exactly like the other players did, but we still had that higher resolution in our own mind, and it's
yeah.
way better than what someone else if they had done the imagination for me.
Oh, hello, RPG Grandma, by the way. Drinking healing potion is cool till you find out dark secret of the creation of them.
Yeah, maybe that's an interesting, quandary.
If you make
Maybe there's a cost, a
if you
terrible
make the
cost.
secret if you make the secret to make the healing potion dark enough, then you can have
Yes.
like an interesting quandary.
Yes, you can.
We kind of
Absolutely.
need those healing potion, but
Exactly.
now we've seen how they made. I'm not really sure I want to take them, right? That can be
Sure.
interesting. But if it becomes that, oh, now we know how to make the potion and they're easily accessible, then they just lose all their
Mhm.
magic, basically.
Yes.
They become
Yeah.
mundane,
Yes.
literally, right? Just it's just a recipe that we can just do. Oh, you just mix those few ingredients together.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
That's an again, it's related to this idea of the realism
Yeah.
versus symbolism and
Yes. Yeah.
mythical. Comes back
Yeah.
to that.
Make your magic potion magic.
Yeah, why not?
Make magic potion magic again.
Why not?
Yeah. Most session I have a visual memory of them. What I imagine in the game. I pointed out to a friend that when we use dungeon tile, mini extra memory,
Yeah.
or of the prop, not of the mind's eyes. Yeah, I agree with that.
I completely agree with you, Gulshan. You're absolutely
And
right. That is
and that's
correct.
often sometimes I talk about as well. Like then when if you do the mini and the tile and the stuff like that, you're no longer seeing the world through the eyes of your character because now you're from up high, right? In
That's
third
right.
person.
You have a
Third
bird's
person
eye
view.
view of it.
Yep.
You're moving them around. I have had some. I think there is a low resolution way of doing this where it still maintains what you call the imagination of it rather than the visual memory. And that is if you do for some reason, I have found it helpful if it's to have just a really rough sketch, like really
Yep.
rough. But it seems to me the more emphasis I put on to the painted miniature or the how this is the battle map down to the every last cobble, try to make it into this is what I am imagining. The more it's about just remembering the props and wasn't
Yep.
it cool with you when you drew out this map. If it's very low resolution, just a quick sketch or something, that can still maintain that vivid
There,
imagination, but
there's
too
something
much.
also like because there's some people also like they're gonna talk about like using mini but in an abstract way, just like say like, okay, those people, those characters are together in a group in a scrum,
Sure.
and those characters here and stuff like that, and you can
Sure.
move to one together, and this one is outside
Yeah.
shooting with his bow, right? That's fine.
Yeah.
But
That's okay. Yeah.
the thing I see with the thing where it's still not a big fan of in that
Mhm.
sense is that it gives you too much of a perfect information about
Yes.
what's happening in the fight. And I think
Like
fights
Fog
are
of War.
messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, fight them. And I want some time, and like because we don't allow question to the GM, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want some time. I like it when a character take his like a player take his turn for his character, and
Yes.
his action is I look around to see what's happening, and then
Yeah,
you
that's
can
fine. Yeah.
reestablish and stuff like that because
Excellent.
that's something that would happen in the fight, right?
It
Just
would.
like
It would.
in a big skirmish in the melee and stuff
Yeah.
like that, right? Sometimes you
In
just
the
have to take a
chaos of
moment to be like,
battle. Yeah.
yeah,
What's going on? Bullets are flying. What's going on? Cars are being
yeah.
thrown all over the place. What is it?
Oh, how many of the bad guy are still up, right?
Yeah.
It's just like I
Yeah.
just peek over my cover and then I look, right? Just like I take a quick glance. That's your
That's right.
turn. That's a
Yeah,
fucking
that's right.
fine turn.
That's an
You
excellent
didn't
turn.
shoot anybody,
And
but you
GMs
did an
don't
action.
punish the guy for
It
doing
was
that.
quick. No,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
And then like the other player can listen, and then like everybody get a better
Exactly.
idea. So
Exactly.
it's a great turn.
It is. It's an
And
excellent turn, and it's to the benefit of everyone at the table. Yeah.
and it keeps you in the minds in the eyes of your character, like seeing
Yeah.
the world through the eyes of your character and minds of the character. I think when you do like the mini, that like you don't have this interaction anymore because
No,
you
'cause
can
you can
just
see
like
it.
watch, you can just look and say, oh, okay, so that's what's happening now,
That's
like
right.
right. And I think it takes away something from the game.
And it you're absolutely right. A couple comments on that. It also it introduces another element that players now have to be on their toes to ensure that they're not they're not metagaming because they can see everyone else's move and they know where everyone is and they can
Yep.
see that you went down even though you didn't have line of sight. You have to then enforce that. Well, you don't have line of sight there, and that's an out of character adjustment. That's coming out of character. We're trying to avoid that. It's not great. And the other thing too, I would just say, because I think it's an excellent turn, as you point out, just taking a second to take stock of where things are. Just a word of caution on that. Players, when you're doing that, respect the pace that has been set by the table. Yes. Don't have that be a longer turn. That should be a short turn. And then it goes to the next person. And that way you're not You're not suddenly putting the brakes on what is otherwise an exciting, dynamic, and quick moving scene. You're okay. Well, I guess I don't know. I might just look around and see. No, it's a quick thing. It's looking quickly around the corner, trying to get. It should be quick. Just respect the time.
Have a good night, RPG Grandma.
Yeah,
Thank you for
good
dropping
night.
by.
Good night.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming by.
Yeah. So let's go. Keep going into those comment. Like when you were young, you wanted to be well. Actually, there's a guard at the entrance by the bank because they want to impress your friend that you know something they don't know.
Yeah,
that's a big problem. And
it is
you say when you're young, there's people that do that still as adult.
Yeah, there's lots.
They want to show how smart they are.
Yep, constantly.
Big problem.
Very big problem.
That's often what I talk about. Like you want to do character versus character, not player versus player.
Yeah,
because that's a form of player versus player,
yes,
right?
It is.
You're just trying to one up your, it can happen in different way. Like the people that try to steal the spotlight, that try to be the funniest, that try to have to come all the way with the best idea, always have their plan taking off, right? Just like this fucking shit play.
Well, it's terrible play, and the reason it's terrible play is because it's not in character play. You're just trying to be yourself in the game, and
but not just yourself. You're not being cooperative, right?
You're not in
role-playing game are supposed to be cooperative.
Exactly.
Even when your character are at odds with each other, even if two characters are fighting, the player or not.
No,
we're still cooperating to figure out what's happening.
It's a really important point, Max, and I'm glad that you keep bringing this up. When people are talking about PvP, they're mischaracterizing it. PvP should never be appropriate. Character versus character, always on the table.
Yeah, that's what I believe. You say when it actually just restrict the imagination. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's
like
true.
Because you can actually once, and then you're gonna have question on everything.
Oh, as soon as you do that, it just opens this can of worms, and it's what you've done essentially is you're saying, look, every symbol in the game can have, back to our topic again, every symbol will have a realistic or a single interpretation. It's just a matter of getting it from me by asking the right question.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I don't like games like that.
Yeah, like, well, just give me an answer then.
Then just give me an answer. Like, why even bother with the mythical?
Like, are you fucking wasting my time?
Yeah, just tell me what it is.
Yeah. Like I don't know if you sometimes you play those video games and I like those terrible video games when you have those quick time event, like, and then you got like this cutscene when you're a struggle, and then you have to press X at the right moment.
Yeah.
To go to advance the cutscene. If you don't, then there's gonna be a loop, and then you're gonna go back to the same point again. Like, just like, why? Just don't fucking waste my time then.
It's like, what is the point of this? Exactly.
Yeah. So some people like want to do this game in that way. It's like, fuck, man, that's that's not gameplay.
No.
Yeah. Lara was asking, what do you mean by they do propaganda?
Yeah, this is a while ago. We're a little behind, but it's just this idea that you have a single interpretation that you want the audience to have. Then you're creating propaganda. If your game is to give a single message.
Like, you want to, let's say, like, just because it's a topic that often come about, like racism and stuff like that, right? You want to touch on that topic in the game, that's fine, but like explore it in an honest manner, right? Oh, we have those different people, those refugees, they have different culture, they don't get along well with the local. There's something to explore that can be interesting.
Yes.
But if you try to disguise a lecture to your player, because you want to beat them on the head with this message that you should be nice to, like, then your game is gonna be shit.
Save your sermons for your
for
Sunday.
Church,
you don't need to do it in a game. Yeah. Actually, they probably don't get enough of that. They probably should go to church. Go to church, people. Come on. So, all right. But thanks, Law Dog. I appreciate you dropping by and saying hi.
Hi, by the way. Yeah. Don't trick your player. Absolutely. Yeah. I've trapped my player into exploring why communism is actually good. Yeah, exactly. Like, fuck, man. Yeah. And that could be like in the other way as well,
It can
right?
be the other way too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just as bad to do it the other way.
Yeah.
It's okay to raise the question: who
Yep.
decides who gets what and when? That's a valid question. That's an economics question.
Mhm.
That's the idea of scarcity and how are you going to deal with this, and unlimited demand and wants for limited supply. That's okay. Have that play out. But to play it out as a bit of a lecture, you're just trying to
Yeah.
give economics 101 or something to I
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like it's dishonest, right?
it
Like
is
approach
dishonest.
question with honesty, right?
Yeah.
You want to explore the concept and
Sure.
you want to play the idea. Like you don't want just like players are not your audience,
They're
and
not. And
you're not there to raise them, right?
No. Raise
Yeah.
interesting questions, sure, and then
Yeah.
and allow them within their characters to explore that. Just like which is why I think, again, I keep trying to bring it back to the topic of our discussion, which is the dungeon as a symbol versus the dungeon as a realism exercise.
Yeah.
And I do think that it's important to leave space for those symbols to be. That's why it's better to have at some point the mythical enter into the situation, because then it does start to, well, there's some questions we can explore. I don't know where it's going to go, and I'm not trying to
Yeah.
moralize it. I'm just here's the question.
Yeah. Yeah. RPG, there should always be like an explorative like side to it, right?
Yes.
In the story,
Yeah.
which goes with what RPG Grandma was saying here, like story should develop out of player action versus
Oh
them stuck in the
yeah,
DM choice.
totally.
That's
Absolutely right.
100%, right?
100%.
We're exploring, like we're not like we're figuring out what's happening, right? In the
Yeah.
same time, but at the same time, when you introduce like the moral question as well, there's
Yeah,
still this exploration.
that's
Like,
right.
it's one of the pillar of a role playing game, right?
It
They
is.
always
It
say.
is. And it really is. With the important caveat that we're not role playing to create a story.
No.
That's the story is more of a byproduct.
Yep.
It's not, the goal is role play. This, if we all share that, and role playing being, I'm going to be in character, I'm going to do things as the character would do in the situation according to their history, what's happened to them, and their motivations, what goals they have.
Yep.
That's the goal.
But I think she said it right when she said like story should develop
Out of player actions.
action.
She said it 100% right. She said it 100% right. I just, we often get criticized, our little tiny circle of 4D role players, that you guys are just doing this for the story. No. We're doing this for the character, and then the story will be whatever happened of those actions, like RPG Grandma stated correctly.
Yep. Zed say you can play out of a communistic revolution, just have character with motive. Yeah, I think that's fair. You could
Sure.
do that. Have character with motive, and
Yeah.
again, make them honest, right?
Sure.
Don't make them unidimensional, like cartoon character,
Yeah, I
cardboard
don't like that.
cutout,
Yeah.
just to push your idea, right? Just to push,
Yeah. No,
like,
don't do that.
yeah.
It's bad form.
Have Tinker as Pooh's idea, exactly.
Yes.
As Pooh's, yeah. Idea, and rabble rouse the common folks, and things getting out of control.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. You can do that. You can explore. Like, I'm not saying like, but don't do it in
Yeah.
Yeah, and like there you go. Like Gulshan was
It
agreeing
is.
there with the
It is.
yeah.
It is. Completely agree. And then Trout.
Drink 1 HP potion, 1 child contract diphtheria.
Well, I mean, there could be a cost. Yeah, there could be
Yeah.
a balance somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't ask
the old lady. What make her cookies?
It's cocaine. It's always cocaine.
Oh, that's how I went darker, but
That's right. That's right. But players in the DM.
What is definitely challenging to get player and DM to trust the story will evolve.
Well, and it's
trust is very important.
Trust is really important. There has to come a realization from the GM side that you're not there to tell your story. There has to be a realization from the player side that you're not there to be entertained. You're not there to be entertained by the GM. I mean, the both have to understand that, and then things can happen.
Yeah, like you said, like a story shouldn't become swinging wings, and like I say like something like the safety blanket, right? People do
Yeah.
prep because like they're afraid. I say like, you know what? If you have it, you will want to use it, and that's gonna empower you. You have to at
Mhm.
some point you fucking have to jump.
Just jump.
Yeah.
There's sometimes this reluctance. I found this that it can be scary when you don't have all of that prep because, well, what if I don't come up with the best possible thing in the moment? But
It
here's the
doesn't
truth
matter.
of it. It doesn't matter.
Mm.
It doesn't matter. It's more important to me now that I just stay in character as much as possible. Maybe it would have been cooler. We can talk about it after. And with practice, I might get better at it. But
Exactly, like because sometime after the game you think about, oh, I should have done that. That would have
I
been
should have, wouldn't
cooler.
have been
But
cooler
you
if
know,
I had
you are
done this.
like you
Yeah.
had to come out on the fly, so maybe you didn't
Sure.
come with. But you know, now you can remember that.
Yep.
And next time a similar situation come out, well, you're
Yep.
gonna come up with something a little cooler because
Yeah,
now
exactly.
you know you develop those
Exactly.
tools. You get better as a GM as by doing it
Yes.
if you let
Just
go
keep
of the
doing it.
prep.
Yep. It's okay. Just let go
Yeah.
of it. You're not trying to make the best story possible. So yeah, maybe in the moment you came up with whatever you came up with. That's fine.
Yep.
You can talk about it after and say, oh, maybe it would have been cooler if we had done this. Maybe, but it's
Yeah.
okay. That's part of the game.
Yeah. All right. We're almost there. Jotham,
Almost
is
there.
this? I don't know if you ever had the teacher that played a guess what's on my mind game. It's terrible.
Oh yeah.
I never had that as a teacher. Like when I had a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
but I see like I often say like when people like that's something I complain oftentimes with the GM that do mystery game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where when they have like the solution, they have the clue like pre-planned and stuff like that. Now you just become like, well, guess what the GM thought of, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like role playing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I
it's
know
terrible.
exactly what Trout's talking about here because I used to be a teacher, and there's this in pedagogy. There's this really bad thing where you ask a question, and you're just looking for the one. Like there's
Yeah.
possible answers. There's all sorts of possible answers, but you just want the one answer, and that's what I think that's what he's referring to. If I'm
Oh yeah, I
correct,
get what you mean.
where it's like, okay, no, yeah, that's all possible, but I
Yeah.
want this one thing, and I'm just going to keep saying, no, that's not it, until I get my one
Oh
thing.
yeah. I get what you
It's
mean. Yeah,
terrible.
I did experience that.
Most
It's
teachers
terrible.
have done this.
Yeah.
I've been guilty of it too. It's
I didn't go to school
terrible.
much, so I don't have that much experience with teacher, but
You're on your motorcycle. That's all right.
yeah. And everything you guess wrong, yeah, you get
Yes.
finished. Yeah,
Yeah.
beating. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. You just like now it doesn't become like a rational thinking, just about like, and like I often say, like education
Mhm.
is not about testing intelligence, it's about testing how well you can remember what the person in authority told you and
Mhm.
repeat it, right?
Mhm.
And
It's
some intelligence
regurgitation.
help
Yep.
with that,
Yep.
but
It's frustrating.
yeah,
It's very frustrating.
that's all learning or made. Exactly.
Lemmings, yeah.
Yeah, that
Honest and reactive dialogue. That is the key.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Read the
that's
book, people. It's worth your time. It's small. It's
honesty very
free.
important, and being and reacting to what the others say and being a dialogue, all very
Yep.
important. Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll play the other way.
Yes.
Yeah. The entertainer jam is the worst. You're going to be doing a lot of like a sitting silently.
Oh, you're just listening to this person. I have been so guilty of this in the past. This is a habit I'm trying to break because
Yeah.
it does all of the wrong things. It encourages your players to sit back, be passive, be moved around.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's
If
terrible.
if you're the GM and you're doing most of the talking, you're fucking doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong. Now, on the one hand, just as a bit of a counter argument to your space, and I completely agree with you, but just to play devil's advocate, I do think the person that takes on the role of the GM should be dynamic.
Yeah.
So, in other words, if you're going to be monotone and you can't, there in role playing, you don't have to be an actor, but you should be enthusiastic, whatever
Mhm.
that looks like for you. You're not
Well,
there to,
that's also true for the player though.
it is, it's true for everybody. But I don't like the idea of an entertainer GM. That's not your role. But it is your role to at least initially set the tone by your enthusiasm, by the tone that you're using your characters. Your characters should be believable characters, like Phil does with his NPCs.
Yeah.
And he's got a great system for that. So you want to you if you want to call that entertaining, I would just call that it's more enthusiasm. Like you've got that, you're passionate about it. You're not, because we've seen some games, Max, like we've seen some reaction videos that Shauner's done for games where it's like it is so dull. Like it's just
you want to come about it
awful.
like as a living human being, right? But
Yeah.
that's not only in role playing, that's in life in general.
I think it may just be a problem that there's some in the hobby are just so socially inept, like they just have zero charisma, and they're trying to run a game where you're trying to hop quickly between the perspective of multiple NPCs, multiple characters that you have, and have them be believable. If you have just an absolute boring, everything's monotone, it's just always, and most of it's all third person or even worse second person, then you're doing it wrong. You don't have to be Matt Mercer voice actor. I'm not, and none of us are.
No.
But at the same time, if you're talking like I mean, if like you've seen the movie Office Space, the guy that's all about the stapler. If you're talking about like that, then you're also doing it wrong. Like there's got to be some.
I think that's funny because I always thought that RPG was a great hobby to develop your social skill in a way that you talk with people, you make stuff on the fly, right? You have to have some riff. You want to play a character with charisma.
Yes.
You learn from your character in a way. But
in
the same time, you have people that have been playing those hobbies for 40 years and never developed that. So
never develop it.
Maybe my theory is wrong.
I don't know why. You'd think you should be really good at stepping into someone else's shoes and being someone other than yourself. But so many,
like it's all about like talking. You should have learned to string a sentence or two together, right? In an interesting manner that's gonna keep people like listening and not like fucking phasing out after 5 words.
I think we talk about prep and how we try to run minimal prep. There is perhaps an argument to be made, Max, that appropriate prep for both player and game master would be the rudiments, just rudimentary public speaking. Can you monitor the words you're using in regular speech? Can you eliminate some of the verbal tics that are so easy to have? Say, like those kind of.
I have that a lot. I say like all the time.
Like we all do. Everyone does.
I do much less when I speak in French, but when I speak in English, I do need this little.
We all do, and native speakers as well have this. We'll have something. We'll say so or and or and maybe good player prep and GM prep would be take some public speaking, record yourself, listen to yourself. Do you notice you repeating the same expressions a time and time again? Maybe that would be better GM prep than just deciding what monsters in every room. Like
you ever did like a Toastmaster or shit like
that? Toastmasters, or do some public speaking, get some. I think
I could never do that because I don't like people. So
that is a bit of a that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, but I
reading out loud.
I did some school politics.
Yeah, there you go.
So I was used to speak in front, like always on the anyway. My story with school politics were interesting.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Trust
player to create complexity. In my session, an undead infant became an encounter. A player RP'd his character as disturbed as he was because he just had his first child. There you go. That's interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. You add something, right?
Yeah.
When you have like an active player that's gonna bring stuff on their own, right? That adds so much texture and so much verisimilitude to the world.
Yeah, it does, and it's an excellent comment, Trout. In like most of your comments, what it does is it's showing the player introducing a complication that a believable being in that fictional world would have. People do have connections. They do have loved ones. They do have other things. They have people that they care about that are sick, or they worry about money. They worry about health. They worry about what the mayor is going to do, or the Lord, or whatever. They have those. Introducing, it's up to the player, I think, to introduce those believable elements into the game.
Yeah. And they have mundane concerns as well, right?
Mundane concerns, absolutely. Where's the food going to come from? Like,
you know, like
absolutely.
that's also like the last toys that we did. Oh, you couldn't join us, I think, no? About like character caring about their life, but also about the life of others. Like, you know, like killing somebody shouldn't be like something that is like.
I was in on that, I think, because my characters always die. So that's true. Yeah, we were talking about that. You shouldn't throw away your life.
I think it's all right. Some character, it's all right. Some characters to have dead wish, like, because there's people like that, and there's some reasons, some cause that are worth dying for. But not all, like, and probably like in adventuring, the people that are like that are going to be more numerous, but it shouldn't be all of them. Some people should want to survive.
Yes, of course.
Should take reasonable stuff.
It should be the baseline. Yeah.
But also, you're not all like dead stone killer or stone cold
killers.
Right? Yeah. You're not all stone cold killer. Like taking the life of somebody is something that is not insignificant.
It should always be significant. Yeah.
And
I agree.
And that's what I say also. Like, if you make life like something that is precious, yours and the one others, it makes the world feel more alive, because now those paper character feel more than just paper.
Yes. Yeah. They're much more believable.
Yep.
And that's important for the player.
Yeah.
Because they're going to try to embody that.
And once you start embodying that, it leads to more thing to role play upon.
Yes, it does.
It leads to more when you add this complexity and this texture and this like depth, right?
Yeah.
It leads to more interesting.
It does.
Challenge and more interesting problem to face.
And that's where the 4D style and in-character play really shines. Because if you get good players, they're constantly adding this depth to through these complications that they're introducing.
Yeah.
And it's just so much more believable characters that you seem like I'm starting to get to know this guy. Yeah, he's a troubadour in the city and he's got this, but I'm starting to get a flavor for who this guy is. It's great. Complications that are added.
And you're not just a class. You're
you're
just like a level 1 fighter.
You mean you're a fighter? Like, oh, man.
Gulshan says the sad thing is that a lot of players these days expect the GM to just entertain them while they sit quietly. It's crazy. I think that's true, and it's totally fucking sad.
It's very sad.
A lot of people have been trained wrong, and I think sometimes when you take like new player, and they're gonna tend to be more proactive because they haven't been.
That's right. They haven't been exactly. If this continues, it's the death of the hobby. Because eventually you just don't have enough entertainers that want to put in the work to entertain. For what?
And I think, to be honest, Critical Role probably doesn't help with that.
I don't think it helps either.
People are talking about the Matt Mercer effect, right? And I think I think there's such a thing as the Matt Mercer effect.
Yeah.
But I think people would like interpret it wrong. They said, "Oh, they're putting too much pressure on the GM that we need to be an entertainer, right?" But like, yes, it's true, but because like it make the player passive. They just want to be told a story. They just want to be like,
constantly.
They watch Critical Role. That's a passive entertainment.
Yeah.
And now they want more of it, so they go to the set at the table at D&D. But like, then you're not supposed to be in a passive entertainment.
No. I had an experience of this firsthand. I'm sorry, we're going late, but you said you had to get up early tomorrow, so I should cut it here. But it's been an interesting conversation. I had this firsthand where I was asked by the local gaming store, because they know I'm big into role-playing games, if I would step in to save a game that was running in their store because they had lost their game master. And when they were interviewing me to be and I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure. These people seem weird, and so-and-so's colored his hair, and I don't really go for that stuff. but whatever. I've never done it before, so I'll give it a try. Just doing an in-game store game. And the first thing they asked me is, well, we want you to be like Critical Role. Like, we want you to, you seen Critical Role? I'm like, yeah, I'm familiar with it. I don't really watch it. It's not my thing. Well, we want you to be like that. We want you to like design games for us like that.
Oh yeah.
So what they're doing is they're just asking me to be their entertainer.
Yeah.
So,
Can you come and read us a story? Maybe
and,
give us a
you know,
choice
I
once in a while.
exactly. And I was good friends with the owner of the store. And so for, just for his benefit, I ran the 2 game sessions or whatever that he had asked me to do. But then they're like, hey, yeah, we're really entertained. Would you come back? And I'm like, no, not on your life. I'm done. I'm not
You didn't
here
try to
for
push
your
back and say, like,
entertainment.
when they say, like, you didn't try to push back, say, well, let's try something different. Let's
No,
say,
because back then I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what it was.
oh, okay. It was like,
This is
oh,
in the
okay.
before time where I didn't
Oh,
realize that
well,
I was missing the role play. I
yeah.
was just playing analog video games.
Nicolas said the player directing their character is a cheat for engaging session. Yeah, exactly. They really push toward what they think is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Make your life much easier. Tell me about the world and your NPC. Tell me, yeah, tell me to roll dice and describe my success for me exactly. Like,
Yeah. It's awful. It's so common too.
what is that? What is that? Like, I cast detect flirt. I cast detect bust side.
Oh,
Hoogie's
yeah.
at the barmaid. Who goes
I
at the barmaid?
know.
Where would
I had one. I don't know where that's coming from, but I can tell you that in that game store game that I was running, there was a
yeah.
couple weirdos that I'm like, I don't want to know what your internet search history looks like. This is weird, and
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable, and I'm way older than you, and I don't know.
Degenerates.
Where's your father? I just it's like your father is disappointed in you. You should go home and apologize.
Yeah.
Oh, brutal.
Improvement require earnest, consistent effort. Practice works of like that's something we missed a lot in today. Like people don't want to get
Yeah.
you fucking engage in an hobby. You're gonna spend a lot of time doing that, right?
Do
Why you don't
something
want to be
hard.
good?
Choose
Yeah.
something hard. Set yourself to it.
Yeah, challenge yourself.
Challenge yourself.
That's what life is about, bro.
Yeah.
Life is
That's why
easy nowadays.
I get a little
Modern life is fucking easy. Challenge yourself in some way.
well, as it pertains to this hobby, I get a little disappointed with people that are like, oh, as long as you're just having a good time.
Oh yeah.
Why are you worried about becoming better at? Well, because that's part of enjoying a hobby is getting better at it.
And that's insane because you see like people that have like painting for a hobby.
Yeah.
They generally want to get better at it. People that do music for a hobby, they generally want to get better at it. People that do sports, they generally want to get better at it.
But in this hobby, we're not
What's
supposed to
fucking
try to
wrong
get better
with
at
you?
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're just elitist or gatekeeper or whatever. You think
Yeah.
you're better than me. Like, yeah.
I
Well,
don't
come
get it.
on. Like, why don't you want to get better? I'm not telling you what you should do. I'm just saying, wouldn't you naturally try to improve your hobby? Like how
It's just strange.
it's baffling to me. Baffling.
Yeah. Every time I watch my own game, I cringe at my speech, but it's something you can practice.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can.
Literally
Yes,
stand in front of your mirror and describe the scene. I hate watching my own game. I hate watching or my
it's
own stream,
hard.
to be honest.
It's hard to do, and that's why I do it. I do it just because it's hard.
Yeah.
But I find the best improvement comes from it.
Yeah. Do you guys think that the Orphan Edgelord of Darkness has a place in 3D or even 4D game? Yeah, sometime.
Sure.
The problem is like when it's too omnipresent, right?
Yes. When every character is like that.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
But what I found is as my in-person group has embraced more 3D, even 4D play, they're less likely to do that because they've come to this realization that that's a one-dimensional character.
Yes.
And it's harder to bring believable things. And they're watching other players have families or siblings or friends or hobbies and not just be edgelord orphan, with a chip on their shoulder. And they have so many more things happening and they
more meat on the bone.
There's way more meat on the bone.
Yep. In a way, system like X card or force upon game because the player and GM have no trust with each other. Yeah. So they outsource. Well, also like it's all fucking like oh, we need safety in role playing game. You're fucking like playing a fucking game of make
I don't
pretend. Like there's
understand that.
nothing like fucking like safer than that.
I don't understand that at all. To me, it's an emblematic of people that are struggling to have real relationships with other human
Yeah.
beings. If you know each other,
That's
then
also like a very like, when we're talking about player versus player,
yeah,
you got that there because that's a power play.
it is a power play.
That's
Absolutely, it is.
definitely like trying to establish a hierarchy in a
Yeah, sure it is.
insane way, like like it's very feminine behavior. I'm not gonna lie, right?
Yeah,
Just like I'm not saying that's all women doing that because we have a lot of feminized men nowadays, but it's
it's
like this subverted hierarchy. Like men we live in hierarchy. But we
Mhm.
establish a hierarchy in
Sure,
a pretty obvious way. It's not like
sure.
clear, like okay, you're gonna be alpha and you're gonna be like, but
No.
we know how it goes. We figure it out
Yeah.
when we're together and stuff like that.
Well, we do
Once
this.
in a while,
We
yeah,
do this. You get together with a bunch of guys. You're going to tease one another to
yeah,
make sure that everyone knows how to take a joke and and if someone
yeah,
doesn't know how to take a joke, then there's a problem with that person. And I don't know.
yeah,
And we
yeah,
do the kind of normal things. We establish this relationship. But you're absolutely right. To have this, like, I'm not willing to tell you what is important to me. I just want to be able to shut you down.
yeah,
That's very poor communicative. Like, well, I can't talk about it, it's too sensitive for me.
yeah.
Well, then you don't trust me. And
But like when we say like it's bitch behavior, right?
it is, I agree. I don't think
That's
it has a place.
you
I
know
don't, honestly, I've listened to the arguments on both sides. I just can't get behind it. It's
nope. And it's like you know it's mumming up the place. You could
it's
say.
not,
Like,
to me
well, we want people
it's
to have fun.
crazy.
Be like, be like, if you're like too much of a I need to watch my language a bit. If you're too much of a, I guess I can say if you're too much of a pussy to
Yeah,
join a role
it's
playing session without the
yeah.
X card, then just find a different hobby. I don't
You
know.
just find a different hobby. It's maybe not for
Yeah,
you. Maybe a video
yeah,
game's better. Like, just go with that. It's
but,
okay.
yeah. I don't know. Like at that point, I don't know what you can do.
I don't know.
You're beyond like you're
To
beyond
me,
help. But
it's
like I said, I don't believe that those things are really about like, oh, I'm gonna be traumatized and stuff like that. It's
no, I
about
don't either.
you remember like when what was that fucking man Adam Kobo.
I think it's emblematic of an emotional immaturity. And I'm like, you've got some unresolved things. You should really maybe look at those first before,
You
like,
like
what?
have you seen like at some point like there was this Adam Kobo, you know what that is?
I think so. Yeah.
The creator of Dungeon World. He was
Yes.
running a game online, a sci-fi game. There
Oh,
was
yeah,
some
yeah.
player
Well,
being
this is the
robot
one
and
with
stuff
the
like that.
dog. Like, there was a dog involved. Is that the one?
I don't know if there was a dog involved. There was like some robot involved, right?
Oh, no. You're right. It's the robot thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like at some point like there's a robot that go for some upgrade in the back shop, and then like
Yeah.
describe how you get plugged, and basically like he described it in a bit of a sexual way, like she's gonna get like an orgasm from the upgrade and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like it's
Yeah.
like something a bit iffy.
Yes.
And they had the fucking X card in that game, but the girl didn't use it. And then, but afterward, some people
Uh,
like talked to her on Twitter that oh she well that was rape and stuff like that, and then she put that in her stupid mind, and then she got mad, and then they tried to cancel fucking. And I have no fucking love for them Kobo, like obviously,
yeah. Yeah.
but they tried to cancel that guy because of that big fucking thing, and first it's a show that like the girl like she was laughing and she was having a good time during the game when the kobold was describing that she never
Right.
thought about like getting the X card, and it was like, and then she got mad. But I guarantee you that what she got mad wasn't that she got traumatized by this thing happening, this rape happening to her character. What she got mad about is that she had an opportunity to use that power
And she didn't use
and
it.
she didn't take it. And now she realized that the missed opportunity that she had to establish some power like that, because it's all a fucking power game.
I don't know. We don't run into these situations because
No,
we're adults and
yes,
we have
and
a
nothing
good
pardoned.
session zero and we're already kind of like, okay, we like Shauner says, no rapey. Okay, so we're just not gonna do that or like whatever it is. And
I'm not
it's
gonna do
fine.
it graphically, at least.
No,
Right?
like if
I
there's a
can
fade to
imply it.
black,
Yeah.
you know, to me it's a solution searching for a problem. If you're having that problem, then you're probably gaming with the wrong person. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
I'm gonna try to go a little faster those commands. Like I'm so I'm
Yeah.
going on tangent as well, right? It's like
Well, we're way off our topic. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, yeah. I say like this is an R-rated game. Yeah, yeah. Well, like we play with adult.
We do.
When you watch Matt Mercer, you see under how
Oh
much
yeah, he's
stress he is. Oh yeah,
stressed.
you see. Yeah, he constantly entertaining again and again. His campaign are suffering directly from it.
Yeah. Let
Yeah,
go. Just let go, Matt. Let go. You don't have to script it all.
we should try to game it. I don't want
Yeah.
to.
But he does talk about, everyone talking about GM burnout, and I suffered from genome burnout because you're feeling that pressure that it's all on me. Like I'm the entertainer. I'm the one that's gonna, force this to be something.
I think I never had GM burnout because I have like people burnout before
Yeah.
I had GM burnout.
Yeah, true enough, Matt.
Just like the social activity. You know what? I just need to go to the wood for a few months. It has nothing to do with GMing or anything else.
No, I'm just done. Absolutely. What's this?
In all of this video about GMing, the words GM burnout has a real risk of a drop every often already.
Yeah.
But that's also the thing with the prep. That really doesn't help with the burnout.
No.
Because you're putting all this
You're still putting all the pressure on yourself as the GM.
Oh, have a good night, Gulshan.
Yeah, thank you. Your comments were excellent, by the way.
Yeah.
He's already gone, but the comments were excellent.
Yeah. Saitama does it for fun because he's already broken the ceiling. He cannot improve anymore. Who's Saitama?
I think that's one. Is that One Punch Man? Is that what that is?
Oh, I don't know about this weeb stuff.
I don't know much about it. I think I did watch that one because my son was like, "This is one that you actually would think is funny because it's a bit of a satire on the whole anime thing," and it was good. I enjoyed it. I don't watch much of it, but that one I got a kick out of.
My piano teacher made me record myself and listen. Oh yeah, that's a very important.
I had the same thing. I had that for when I was taking some voice lessons, for like singing lessons. I had that.
Yeah.
That's brutal. And then same thing with instruments. You do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I need to do that.
Yeah, it's hard.
Oh, there you go. Like the best thing about One Punch Man is Bicycle Hero. So I guess he was right that it was a One Punch Man, Saitama.
Yeah,
it's not about winning or losing or being stronger or weaker. It's about being there, right now, taking you on. Yeah, maybe I should watch it one day.
It's again, it's satire. It's kind of making fun of the anime stuff.
Maybe I would like it then. I don't know.
Yeah.
So now they're all talking about that. I guess like it's a popular show.
I think it is pretty popular.
Yeah. I might become traumatized. Is wielded as a weapon. Yeah, exactly. To have your way with the people around you.
Yeah.
You became like the tyrannical oppressor under the guise of victimhood. Yeah, like victimhood is used as a weapon like nowadays. Like it's
just
100%.
Go get it sorted. Go. I don't.
Well, there's nothing to sort. Real victim.
If there's nothing to sort, then
real victims are the one using it as a weapon.
Yeah.
Those are all like people like pretend victim. People that do the Oppression Olympic, they're pretend victim. They suffer nothing because if you did, you wouldn't use it like that.
It's just I think it's almost a confusion over what the basis of your identity is. Like everyone goes through difficult things, but the difficult things themselves aren't the identity. It's how it's you overcoming them. You're still here. You're a survivor. You've done it. That's it's not the problem that is the identity. It's the you overcoming it. But dwelling on the issue
but like
is not going to solve it.
This would be good advice for somebody that is an actual victim, but those people just pretend
they're not. Right? No, they like to pretend. They put it on like a costume.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're stolen valor.
Yeah, very much so. Very much. It's actually very offensive to those that are legitimate victims.
Yeah. That Cobalt event was completely blown out of proportion. Yeah, but if you dance with the devil, you're gonna get burned. Exactly. Like I have no sympathy for this Cobalt guy.
No.
because like, well, you made your bed, now lie in it, right? Just
You
like you
should have
fucking like
known. You should
you
have
enable
known.
those fucking retarded people.
Yeah, it's the scorpion and the frog. You
Exactly.
know that's
Yeah.
still a scorpion, still going to sting you, even if you both drown in the river.
Yeah.
It's
But
still
then
going to
like it was
sting
like
you.
a scorpion and a scorpion,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. In that
Because
case,
Cobalt is
yeah,
not is not but not
he's.
much better.
Yeah, I don't know much
Yeah.
about him, so I shouldn't
No,
comment.
yeah. He is a case. Yeah. I'll get going as well. I think you were wrapping up anyway. I'm just going to the last few comments. So now I guess it's about it's not just kill that campaign, kill the whole role play franchise when they had multiple different campaign going. Oh yeah, the Cobalt thing. Yeah,
You just changed, it nuked
yeah,
their
the role
whole
play.
channel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the role play was the channel they had,
Excuse me.
and it died from that because of this fucking bullshit. Yeah. People
Yeah.
burn out is having to constantly watch what you say because people might want to cancel you and exclude you. Every person acting like a Stasi snitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
Self-censoring is very fucking tiring, but I don't do much of that.
No,
I,
but there's
I probably
also
do. I
there's
probably
also
do
it's
less
not.
than I should.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to be contrarian here, but there's something to be said of not. You're not a one track record. You're not. You don't have to have everything about the same thing all the
No,
time. And
no.
there's a time and a place, and it's just part of being a well-adjusted human being
Yes.
to know when it's appropriate and when it's not. Now, I don't consider that self-censoring. I just consider that good manners. It's just good manners. If we're doing something and that something is role play and this is the game, then
Yeah.
it's not good manners for me to be bringing in my other baggage or my axe to grind. I'm
No,
not
but if it comes on a topic like naturally,
sure,
you
but
can
it's
like I'm like especially if somebody like is engaging with this topic, right?
sure,
And I'm
sure.
there. I'm not gonna sit on my like I'm not gonna bite my tongue
I
because I
don't.
don't want
I'm
to
not saying
offend
that
him,
you
right?
would bite your tongue. I'm just saying that there are times where I don't consider it self-censorship for someone to just say, I don't disagree, I don't agree with you on this, but it's not an appropriate time for us to go into it, or whatever it may be. You don't, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to betray your own values, is what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Well, you know,
But at the
that's
same
why like
time,
I didn't put it on the in the description today for
yeah,
ironically, but you know, like I always have usually this description that like you know I have this topic here on this on the show. This
oh,
is bad,
sure. Yeah.
right? The
We're not
World War
talking
II
about
topic.
this.
Yeah.
Fine. I mean, that's, to me, that's just saying, there's another time and place for that. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to betray my own values. I'm just saying we're not talking about that tonight. We're
Yeah.
talking about this.
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
that's
That's
fine.
not self-censorship, but what I'm talking also about, you know, sometimes I use words that I
Mhm.
consider like politically non-correct, right? I use like, you
Sure.
know, I probably use a few tonight, like retard and fag and stuff like that, right? Just like,
Doesn't, yeah.
but
Again, it's not there's a disclaimer at the beginning. It's fine. Covers it. So
exactly,
there you go.
yeah. But like, if I'm with people that I always have to think twice of every word, like, oh, is that the right word to use again? Like, I don't want to interact with those people. Like, and you know what?
No.
And sometimes
Yeah.
I use those bad word because I want to keep those people away. I don't
Mhm.
want them anywhere near me.
Sure.
So fucking like run away with your tail between your leg, right?
Yep.
Just like, so sometimes I don't have to talk like that,
No, but it's
but
scaring away the right people, I guess.
exactly, yeah. Those people are fucking insufferable, and that's very tiring. Also, like people
Sure.
that if you want me to pretend to believe something that I don't, that you know, like, or like you know, cause me like cognitive dissonance, right? I can
Mhm.
see with my eyes, and I have to pretend that something else is right. Just like then I don't want those people around me either, right? If
Sure.
you're gonna cause me like cognitive dissonance,
Mhm.
I'm not like I'm not gonna cause that injury to myself for
Mhm.
your own behalf, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
anyway,
Makes sense.
so that's a big part of the people burnout. But now you know it's a bit better because I don't have a job anymore. So
True. He's retired.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's also part of the reason why I don't have a job anymore because like the world changed so much
It did. Yeah.
that I can't
Did.
fucking stand it anymore. You fucking
No.
go work in the office and then like there's all kind of fucking crazy stuff that you have to always bite your tongue and pretend that you're okay with that and say like, no, I'm not
It's
okay with
hard.
that.
Yeah.
Fuck
That's
you.
yeah, exactly. Why do I have to agree with this? Oh, right. Because
Yeah.
it's the thing. Yeah. We
And
all
you
have to
always have
agree
those
on.
people like and especially like I was working in the video game industry, and you always have those people like trashing religion openly and stuff like that, like in fucking
Yeah.
like work email and say like, that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
stop doing that, because I'm gonna avoid those subjects that you would disagree with, that you
Sure.
find offensive.
Uh-huh.
Well, try to do the same, but they don't.
No.
So all right, fuck you then.
Yep. That is the
Yeah,
correct response.
yeah. If we cannot be honest, how can we anyone ever have hard conversation? Yeah, with me where I might learn. Yeah,
Mhm.
you know. Anyway, I believe in the Christian value of forgiveness and letting go. It's much more freeing to yourself than the person you wrong. Yeah,
Yeah. Harboring resentment is like taking poison and hoping the other person gets sick.
yeah,
Like
that's true.
it's not, it's going to hurt you a lot more than it's going to hurt them.
Yeah. Well, there's a
So
saying too that say like the best revenge is living well, right?
yeah, you know what? If there's something between you and me, then we're just gonna, we're gonna leave it in God's hands and just move on. Like I'm not gonna hold a grudge. I'm gonna move on.
Yeah.
So that may mean that I'm not going to associate with you anymore, but it's certainly, I'm not going to hold this long standing resentment that's going to make me miserable. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have
Anyway,
to associate with people that make you feel bad. Like just say goodbye.
no, people are not entitled to your company, right? People are not entitled to your time, right? Just like
Good expression, Trout. Good expression.
before
Before
embarking on
embarking on
revenge.
revenge, dig true graves. Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that before, but I like it a lot.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Good vibe.
So we
All right.
went all over the map, Max. We've done all sorts of things, and 2.5 hours in, we started with realism versus symbolism. I think we did a pretty good job of that. And now we're
Yeah.
all over the place. We're ending in forgive and move on.
Well, it's always like
probably a good
the way
place.
those stream go. We talk about a subject, and then at some point the subject run out, but there's always like more things to talk about,
Well,
right?
there's excellent comments.
And,
I mean,
yeah,
thank you
and
to
they're
everyone
covered,
with their
right?
comments. Really good stuff. And that's always
Yeah.
helpful.
Thank you for joining me. It was a fun one.
Oh, it was good. I had a lot of fun. Time flew by. So that was great.
And thank you for people that watch live in chat and commented in the chat and stuff like that. And thank you for people that are gonna watch on the replay later on. Drop a like and comment and subscribe to me and Crispy, the channel there, Table Runner.
Yeah, thank you.
Any last word you want to share before I wrap up?
No, we're in a bit of a dry spell with games,
Yeah.
but hopefully that'll change in the near future, and we certainly.
Oh, it will change in the near future.
I think so. I think we'll get some other things going. We've had some people that had family events that have kept them out of the circle for a while, out of the spotlight, but they're coming back, and of course, I would just plug anyone who's interested in character play or 4D play or even 3D play. Please let us know, and we're more than happy to see if this is a good fit for you, and we'll go from there. So yeah, looking to expand role play. That's what we want to do.
Yeah. All right. Have a good night, and see you maybe soon. Who knows?
Who knows?
Take care. Bye.
Good night.